Chapter 1028. She cut that lump of meat into pieces. Student Yi is indeed a strong one, so powerful. She actually did it so easily. Those students' suspenseful hearts finally calmed down. Yi Qingluo's expression didn't relax at all. Her slender brows creased slightly as her charming eyes stared intently at that lump of meat that was split into pieces. Somehow she felt that things wouldn't end so easily. Indeed. Just as everyone heaved a sigh of relief, suddenly, someone from the high profound class screamed in horror, "Something's wrong." Hiss hiss hiss. Another strange sound was heard. The minced meat on the ground, gathered bit by bit and reassembled into a lump of meat. That huge eye stared fiercely at Yi Qingluo. What kind of monster is this? It can actually regenerate itself. Xie Yin squatted by the side of the stairs as he stared at that lump of meat and then looked at the young lady whose back was facing him. His brows knitted even tighter. This monster could actually regenerate itself after being split into pieces. Yi Qingluo still had a way to deal with it? Xie Yin squinted his eyes as the scene of Yi Fengru returning to the god-slaying mercenary group appeared in his mind, covered in injuries. Not only Yi Fengru, their group leader Nangong Firen and the others were all covered in injuries. Other than them, the other 20 over mercenaries were all buried in the Ling King's tomb. The one who saved them was Yi Qingluo. He pursed his lips meaningfully. He wanted to see what remarkable ability Yi Qingluo had to make such a powerful group leader fall for her. The lump of meat which had reassembled itself into a lump of meat was filled with anger. The steaming, bubbling ball of meat rolled a few times. Suddenly, from the softness, 2 long meaty hands grew out, like a human's arm, an arm formed from a lump of meat. It grabbed towards Yi Qingluo's direction. The lump of meat's speed was extremely fast. But in a blink of an eye, that 2 meaty arms had already stretched out in front of Yi Qingluo. Its 5 fingers stretched out and was about to grab Yi Qingluo's shoulder. The meaty arms were still bubbling. There wasn't any fragrance from boiling meat but only a nauseating stench. Yi Qingluo frowned as she swiftly retreated a few steps to avoid those 2 meaty arms. The devouring flame fan in his hand quickly slashed out a wind blade. The wind blade was so sharp that it directly cut off the 2 arms. The 2 meaty arms fell to the ground, rolled a few times and fell down the stairs. The meatball's gaze became more and more ruthless. It exerted force and 2 new arms grew out of its severed flesh arms. The 2 new arms were obviously more disgusting than the previous arms. The stench also became extremely strong. Yi Qingluo's body bent down and rolled a few rounds down the stairs. Then he slammed the ground and leaped up. After retreating a few steps, Yi Qingluo closed her glower flame fan and stood firm. "What are you?" His eyes were filled with hatred as he stared at her. It wanted to tear apart this human who injured it. It wanted to swallow this human into its body in the most painful way possible. Due to its anger, the surface of the plump meatball was constantly bubbling. Immediately after, the meatball launched another attack. The meatball once again collapsed into a pile of meat paste. It directly spread towards Yi Qingluo's legs. Yi Qingluo narrowed her eyes, carefully sizing up its weakness as she swiftly retreated. Just as that pile of meat paste was about to reach her legs, Yi Qingluo's glower flame fan opened and the condensed profound qi directly exploded that pile of meat paste. Chapter 1029. Her 5 fingers flicked and the open feather fan shot out a few silver wires in a split second. The silver wires shot out as fine as rain. It swiftly wrapped around those pieces of meat that were blown away. Those pieces of meat were bound by the iron wires. After Yi Qingluo stood still, her gaze quickly wandered around the meat lump. This meat lump had the ability to recover automatically. The ability to recover definitely needed a medium. With that medium as the center, it could continue to recover. What she needed to do now was to organize the meat lump to recover. Try her best to find the medium to recover. As long as the medium was destroyed, the meat lump had no possibility of recovery. Sure enough. After the meat lump was blown into pieces once again, those pieces of meat that were splattered below the stairs gradually floated up and gathered towards a certain place. And the pieces of meat which were bound by Yi Qingluo's silver wires also gave off a resonance vibration. Yi Qingluo pinched the silver wires tightly, feeling the direction that the silver wires wanted to head towards. Her gaze was fixed on the place where the meat lump first appeared. There was a piece of meat the size of a fist. Some pieces of meat which were not bound by the silver wires were constantly flying towards that meat lump. Pieces of meat, merged with that fist-sized meat lump, condensed into a ball. The pieces of meat which were bound by the silver wires kept struggling and vibrating, trying to get closer to that piece of meat lump. Yiqing Luo swiftly pinched the feather fan tightly, the other palm flipped and struck out a palm wind. The palm wind shot out an enchanting red ray, charging towards that piece of meat lump. Perhaps it sensed the existence of danger. Yiqing Luo's palm had just struck out. The pieces of meat which were bound by the silver wires gave off an increasingly intense vibration and reaction. Bam! The silver wires broke one by one. Yiqing Luo staggered backwards a few steps because of the sudden disappearance of this force, almost stepping on the stairs. She stabilized her figure, staring at those pieces of meat which broke through the silver wires and flew towards that piece of meat lump, blocking Yiqing Luo's palm wind. Once again the scene of the pieces of meat flying around played out. However, this time and time again, the pieces of meat flying around did not give one the slightest sense of relief or the feeling of relief. But it made one's heart turn cold, increasingly fearful. Time and time again it was torn apart. Time and time again it automatically recovered. This lump of meat was a monster that couldn't be killed. Yiqing Luo's expression was cold, her long and narrow eyes stared unblinkingly at the lump of meat. She discovered that the ball of meat was continuously recovering, and each recovery was taking longer than the previous one. It was as if his energy was gradually being depleted. In other words, is there a limit to the number of times this meatball can recover? Once it was restored to a certain number of times, the meatball would run out of energy. It would lose the ability to recover. Yiqing Luo's eyes suddenly lit up as her 5 fingers opened up the glower flame fan, preparing to completely exhaust the recovery ability of this meatball. The ball of flesh, which had already recovered, rushed toward the other end of the stairs at the speed of light. In the direction of the hyperfound class students who had already gone down more than 10 steps. Yiqing Luo was stunned and immediately realized something as she reprimanded in a low voice, "All of you quickly move aside. This monster wants to devour humans to replenish its energy." Hearing this, the students turned pale with fright. The scene of Shangguan Liuli being devoured was still vivid in their minds. No one wanted to become food for that meatball. No one wanted to be swallowed by that meatball. It was simply too disgusting. It was simply too terrifying. However, their speed was no match for the speed of the meatball. Chapter 1030. Help. I don't want to be eaten. I don't want to die. One by one, the high-profound class students did not even have the intention to resist. They only knew how to cry like ghosts and howl like wolves as they scrambled up the stairs. And those intermediate class and high-profound class students who had yet to walk down the stairs turned around and ran. Xie Yan also immediately escaped from the scene. A student had already been stuck to the meat lump. In just a blink of an eye, that student had already been sucked into the meat lump. Following that, the meat lump stuck to another student. That student was Lu Shuiyu. Her usually cold and indifferent face turned pale with fright as the pieces of meat stuck to her body. She grabbed Lu Shuilan who was beside her. "Sister, save me." "No, no." Lu Shuilan screamed in fear as she slapped her hand away and used her hands and feet to climb up the stairs. Along the way she even kicked Lu Shuiyu towards the direction of the meat lump. Normally, none of the people who surrounded him were willing to help him, saying that he was the vice president and that he was the vice president. All of them escaped extremely quickly and no one cared about her. Lu Shuiyu's eyes were filled with hatred. She clenched her fists and struggled with all her might. She could clearly feel that sticky fleshy sensation clinging tightly to her back. It was as if there was a pulling force that kept pulling her towards the depths of the meat lump. In this world there was no one and nothing that could be relied on. The only one that could be relied on was herself. Lu Shuiyu no longer cared and did not expect anyone to save her. After all, she was a high profound class student and the faculty council's vice president. Lu Shuiyu's reaction was not as slow as the other students. Her eyes turned cold as she gathered her profound qi. Before her hand was sucked into the meat lump, she struck it with her palm. She ran forward with all her might. The clothes on her back and the meat lump pulled out pieces of thin film that could not be broken. Lu Shuiyu pursed her red lips. Unless, she had to tear her clothes to escape from the meat lump's suction. Otherwise, she would not be able to escape from the meat lump's suction ability. But, once she tore her clothes, inside there was only her indecent clothes. There were so many students around. Wouldn't that ruin his innocence? Wouldn't Si Yanmu despise her for ruining her reputation? Despise her for not knowing how to be clean? No. She could not let Si Yanmu despise her. Lu Shuiyu's face had already turned deathly pale, and her forehead was dripping with sweat. He kept running forward, trying to pull away from the meatball. However, the meatball had already absorbed half of her body. Whoosh whoosh, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. Lu Shuiyu only felt her body become light, and her whole body was separated from the ball of meat. She quickly leaped up the stairs and ran in the direction of the gates of hell. As she ran, she did not forget to look back. The elegant young girl dressed in a greenish-white uniform slowly withdrew the wind blades she had shot out. The devouring flame fan that was like a raging inferno was also emitting profound energy. That absolutely beautiful face was calm and indifferent, without the slightest extra emotion. Was her Yiqing Luo who saved him? Lu Shuiyu stopped in her tracks in disbelief. She could not believe that at this moment the people who usually followed her, even her own sister, did not help her at all. And that Yiqing Luo, whom she had targeted, schemed and wanted to take her life, had saved her. The shock that this caused to Lu Shuiyu was incomparably huge. The meatball's huge eyes slid across the meat lump because Yiqing Luo had disturbed its foraging. It slid all the way to Yiqing Luo's direction before it stopped. Chapter 1031. After swallowing 2 students consecutively, the meatball's energy had been replenished. Its eyes were glowing with a strange red glow. Why are you still standing there for? Still want to be eaten? Yiqing Luo raised her eyes indifferently and swept a glance at Lu Shuiyu. Lu Shuiyu shuddered. You. Why save me? These 5 words were interrupted by Yiqing Luo coldly. I don't want to save you just for my own survival. What she said wasn't polite words. Whether Lu Shuiyu was dead or alive to her, it didn't matter. She stopped the meatball from absorbing Lu Shuiyu because she couldn't let the meatball absorb the human's energy to replenish its own energy. Once the meatball automatically recovered, it would return to its original state. It would be more difficult for her to deal with the meatball. Lu Shuiyu clenched her teeth, didn't say another word, turned around and ran towards the direction of the gates of hell. Yiqing Luo retracted her gaze and stared at the meatball whose eyes were glowing red, her lips curled into a faint smile. Why don't we try? Will I exhaust my profound energy first, or will you not be able to automatically recover first? That huge eyes, its eyeballs rolled a few rounds, its gaze getting more and more vicious. It was angry. Angry at Yiqing Luo's provocation. But Yiqing Luo's expression was calm, her lips still raised slightly. Why? Scared? That meatball, under the rolling bubbles, stretched out 2 long meaty arms, grabbing towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo was calm, without any fear as she stared at the incoming meatball arms. That calm and beautiful face, unknowingly gave off a strangers don't come near kind of strong imposing manner. Just as the meaty arms were about to attack her face, Yiqing Luo's figure swayed, her figure turned into a remnant shadow, swiftly disappearing in front of the meatball. Yiqing Luo displayed her own set of footwork, following closely down the stairs. After such a long time, the 9 people in Devil class had already walked to many levels. Looking over, she couldn't see any traces of the 9 people. Yiqing Luo rushed down the stairs with ease. That meatball missed, only feeling that it was being teased by a human. It immediately rolled its round body in anger, grumbling as it chased after her. It was a huge meatball, rolling on the stairs. No matter how one looked at it, it was extremely bizarre. After running for a distance, Yiqing Luo took a look at the illusion of the stairs. The smile at the corner of his mouth showed his confidence. She flipped her hair over her shoulder and narrowed her eyes as she stared at the meatball chasing after her. Zhang Xian abruptly spread his fingers apart, and a heavy shockwave surged forth like thunder. Boom! The Xian Qi smashed onto the meatball's body. Yiqing Luo flipped her palm and a silver thread shot out from the glower flame fan. She quickly picked up the silver thread and shot it at the surrounding stairs. In the blink of an eye, the silver threads had trapped the fist-sized piece of meat in the formation. This was the reason why she had brought Meatball all the way here as if she was walking a dog. Yiqing Luo noticed the sequence of these bottomless stairs. Once they reached the first floor, the angle at which the stairs rotated was a simple formation. If he could make use of this terrain to design a formation, he would be able to control the ball of meat in a short period of time. The minced meat gathered towards the core piece of meat. However, when it approached the meat core, it was blocked by a transparent barrier. Chapter 1032. This array wouldn't be able to hold on for long. The meat lump's automatic recovery ability was too strong. She had to end the battle quickly. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed, as though reflecting a piercingly cold ray. She pulled out the silver thread from the glower flame fan and fixed the array. Immediately she opened the feather fan like a whirlwind, the glower flame fan turned into a sharp blade, directly shooting towards that piece of core meat lump. Bringing along a majestic imposing manner like a tidal wave, it was like a hurricane. The surrounding pieces of meat which were crashing against the array had obviously panicked. The force and speed of the collision kept increasing. The strong hurricane pierced directly towards the core meat lump. Yiqing Luo's pupils gradually enlarged. Suddenly, a white shadow as swift as lightning dashed into the array. That core meat lump was directly held in its mouth. That's right. Was awesome. That white shadow with the core meat lump in its mouth, the huge pearl-like ink-black beast eyes, stared at Yiqing Luo without blinking. Shiju, you want to eat it? Yiqing Luo was slightly stunned. She had not expected Shiju to actually rush out of the pet space at this moment. Shiju moaned softly with that meat lump in its mouth. It tilted its head as though waiting for Yiqing Luo's permission. Last, this thing is helpful to Shiju. In her mind, Old Man Song's voice suddenly rang. In the mirage she had met Old Man Song. Hearing his voice, Yiqing Luo was stunned. Old Man Song? That lump of meat should be the guardian of the 18 levels of hell, known as Void Ghost. Old Man Song explained, Void Ghost means that it has nothing, its original body is just this kind of meat lump, it can follow what it sees, changing into any shape. For example, it could stretch out 2 fleshy human arms from the meat lump, which was transformed. Void Ghost's biggest advantage is that it will never disappear from this world. Its continuous automatic recovery, how could it possibly disappear from this world? Destroy that meat lump, it should not have the ability to recover. Yiqing Luo looked at the array which was almost unable to hold on any longer as her slender brows creased. If Shiju swallowed the core meat lump, will it cause those pieces of meat to rush toward Shiju's stomach? I won't. Old Man Song's answer was extremely decisive. Once a magical beast swallows this core of meat, it will fuse with the magical beast as one. This automatic recovery ability will also be passed on to the magical beast. Yiqing Luo's eyes shone brightly. Inheritance ability to automatically recover? Once Shiju swallowed the core meat lump, it would be able to inherit the power of automatic recovery. Then, in the future, Shiju would become an existence that would never disappear. It's just that, this is, after all, the power of inheritance. I'm afraid it won't be as frequent and fast as Solitary Ghost. Shiju, eat it. Yiqing Luo looked at Shiju as she smiled. Even if the effects were not as good as Wu Gue, it was fine. To be able to increase Shiju's chances of survival was already very good. Yiqing Luo's words had just ended when the array collapsed. Countless pieces of minced meat rushed towards Shiju in an overwhelming manner. Shiju's tongue swept, but before it could swallow the core meatball, the entire wolf's body was tightly wrapped up into a ball of minced meat that was torn into pieces. Shiju let out an explosive roar. Those minced meat. Trying to forcefully congeal into a ball in Shiju's mouth? Yiqing Luo's charming eyes turned cold as she swiftly went forward, releasing her profound qi to split those minced meat from Shiju's body. Chapter 1033. Shiju. Yiqing Luo's expression congealed as her palms ignited with a burst of profound qi as she grabbed those minced meat barehandedly. No matter what, she absolutely could not let anything happen to Shiju. She had promised Shiju's mother that she would take good care of Shiju. She had promised Shiju's mother that she would bring Shiju to look for its father. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes revealed a cold glint as she grabbed those minced meat and forcefully tore those minced meat off Shiju's body. She thought that this would tear off another piece of thin film. But when Yiqing Luo's fingers just tore that piece of meat, it directly fell off from Shiju's body. Following that, numerous pieces of minced meat which were wrapped around Shiju fell onto the ground. Roar, roar! Shiju raised its head as it let out a long roar. All the minced meat at this moment was bursting forth from its powerful aura as it scattered in all directions. Shiju slowly lowered its head as its sparkling beast eyes stared at Yiqing Luo's direction. It swallowed that piece of core meat. The meat's automatic recovery ability had already been transferred to its body. Yiqing Luo heaved a sigh of relief, but she didn't forget to ask Old Man Song. This space is created by the Heaven Profound Pagoda, and this ghost in the 18 levels of hell should also be created. Once Shiju leaves the Heaven Profound Pagoda, can this recovery ability still be retained? The space which is created, to put it bluntly, is using the Heaven Profound Pagoda's energy to project their desired location, forming a space within the Heaven Profound Pagoda. The people or things which you meet in the Heaven Profound Pagoda are all real. It was just like the illusions from before. The gates of hell, the illusion created by the three corpses etc., were all real existences. Naturally, this ghostly Wu was also real. The only difference is, in here, all of your injuries falling into the 18 levels of hell are being swallowed by the ghost, only your souls are injured. In reality, rest for a few days and you will be back to normal. Yi Qing Luo heard that and nodded her head in understanding. Following that, she kept Shiju back into the pet space, allowing it to merge with the core meat properly. Long Yunzhan and the rest walked all the way down, and after about 400 over levels, their footsteps became slower and slower. Suddenly Long Yunzhan stopped in his tracks. His cold eyes swept over the hand that was holding his arm. Let go. Class monitor, since Qing Luo said to believe her, then let's believe her. Qiao Jin grabbed his arm tightly, and although his heart was filled with worries, but he still chose to believe in Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo would not do anything that she was not sure of. Long Yunzhan's veil revealed his azure blue eyes. A piercingly cold light as if covered with frost. Qiao Jin's hand froze and he subconsciously let go. Seeing Long Yunzhan dashing up the stairs without even turning his head back, Qiao Jin felt helpless. He chased after Long Yunzhan for a few steps, but he really couldn't catch up, so he stopped and shouted at Long Yunzhan's back, "Class rep. If you go back now, won't we all have to follow you back? Wouldn't Qing Luo's intention of delaying time for us be wasted?" The figure that had already climbed a few floors suddenly stopped in his tracks. Qiao Jin heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time he felt somewhat helpless. Only when Yi Qing Luo's name was mentioned would Long Yunzhan listen to it. For the test of strength, all 10 of us in Devil class must pass it before we can obtain the right to participate in the interclass competition. Chapter 1034. This competition not only concerns Devil class's honor, not only concerns our own dignity, not only concerns how we can transform from a trash which everyone despises, to a strong practitioner who is revered by everyone. Qiao Jin's voice became more and more steady, the usual frivolous tone had completely disappeared, leaving behind a solemn and proper tone. This competition, the most important thing for us is for Qing Luo, to let Qing Luo win the bet with Shangguan Lu Li. He had already walked to Long Yunzhan's side as he stretched out his hand and placed it gently on Long Yunzhan's shoulder. And Qing Luo, what is it for? His azure blue eyes suddenly flashed with light. His thin lips squirmed for some time as Long Yunzhan's clear voice rang out, "She is for Devil class." "Yes, for Devil class, for all of us." Qiao Jin gave a light laugh. "So, she will not let anything happen to herself." The other 7 stood up straight as they spoke in unison. "Class monitor, Qing Luo will definitely not let anything happen to herself. We believe in her. I'm just not around for a while and you all miss me so much." A sweet laughter, like the tinkling of a clear spring, resounded in everyone's eardrums. The few faces under the veils revealed an ecstatic expression. One by one they headed towards the direction of the voice as they took quick steps forward. "Qing Luo." They saw a slender figure from the dark corner of the staircase, slowly walking over. That green academy uniform on her body was like a fairy's wings. While she walked, it was as though a green lotus had bloomed, making one feel intoxicated. That peerless face held a sweet smile. Her long and narrow eyes were slightly raised, as strands of enchanting and demonic charm were outlined. Was Yi Qing Luo. She had really chased up to them and scathed. "Qing Luo, are you all right? Earlier that monster." Bei Ming Lu took the lead to go up. As a doctor, she immediately pulled Yi Qing Luo's arm as she helped to take her pulse. "I'm fine." Yi Qing Luo smiled. "That monster is already dead, its automatic recovery ability has been taken over by Shiju." After Bei Ming Lu took her pulse, to ascertain that Yi Qing Luo's body was indeed fine, she heaved a sigh of relief. When Qiao Jin heard Yi Qing Luo's last sentence, he was extremely astonished. "What did you say? That meatball's automatic recovery ability was given to Shiju? Then in the future, will Shiju still be able to regenerate itself like that meatball monster just now when it's chopped into pieces?" Hearing everyone's surprised words, the smile on Yi Qing Luo's lips became increasingly shallow. "Yes. *CK. Shiju is going to ascend to the heavens. Next time we go on a mission, let's hide behind Shiju and let Shiju be the target." Bah. Qiao Jin hadn't finished speaking when he was slapped on the head by Bai Ming Lulu. "If you dare to use Shiju as a target, then this old woman will use you as a human experiment." Xiao Jin touched the back of his head that was hurting. I was just joking. Just who did he provoke? Why was Baiming Lulu targeting him today? Alright, let's wait till we leave the heavenly pagoda before making a ruckus. Yiqing Luo looked at the few of them fooling around and her expression became much more relaxed. The two people who were fooling around responded, and the few of them walked down the stairs. About an hour later they finally saw the end of the stairs. That was a ray of white light, extremely dazzling. It was so dazzling that they couldn't see what was behind the white light. I'll go in first, be careful. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she released her perception. In the heavenly pagoda, no one knew what would happen in the next instance. No one knew what they would face in the next round. Chapter 1035. Congratulations to the first class to successfully walk out of the heavenly pagoda. Let us remember this elite class. An extremely dignified and righteous voice rang beside her ears. Following that, a deafening round of applause resounded across the horizon. Yiqing Luo, who was blinded by the intense white light, rubbed her brows with her slender fingers before she slowly opened her eyes. In front of her was Master of Justice, who was dressed in a white robe with a badge. Behind her was a heavenly pagoda that towered into the clouds. From the open door of the pagoda, Xiao Jin and the rest walked out one by one. This class is Devil class? Master Gong Zheng's expression turned weird when he saw the class badge on Yiqing Luo's chest. The sound of the crowd clapping also gradually faded away, leaving only a few people behind. Finally it came to an abrupt end. Devil class? That class which was known as Heavenly Academy's waste? They were actually the first class to walk out of the heavenly pagoda? How could this be possible? Numerous high-ranking officials and dignitaries, their own sons and daughters, as well as the elders in the high profound class and intermediate profound class, all had ashen faces. It was extremely awkward. A waste class. And they only brought in 10 students. And they actually snatched ahead of the elite class. Could it be cheating? A class must have at least 10 students who are able to live out of the heavenly pagoda before they can be considered to have passed the test. Yiqing Luo being able to walk out is a given. The others must have long died in the space of the heavenly pagoda. Some of the first batch of students who were eliminated in the first round of the Golden Desert because of their greed stood up immediately. There were intermediate profound class students and low profound class students among them. But no matter which class, at least they were stronger than Devil class. They were eliminated in the first round, so how could Devil class possibly pass all the tests in the heavenly pagoda? Dozens of students started to clamor. There were also people who started to count the number of Devil class students who walked out. When Devil class students walked out of the pagoda one by one, those clamoring voices gradually quietened down. 5, 6, 8, 9. When they saw the last person walking out of the pagoda, those students who were counting shut their mouths. 10 students. Among the students in the Devil class, only 10 students entered. Finally, not one more, not one less. Furthermore, he had passed the test of the upper profound pagoda unscathed. How is this possible? The few students fell onto the ground in disbelief as they stared blankly at Yiqing Luo. It's you? You used the divine relic to cheat. Pa. A profound chi flew through the air and coincidentally hit the low profound class student's face. Yiqing Luo retracted her palm as she smiled faintly, without the slightest fluster of hitting someone in public. Yiqing Luo, you. Not waiting for that student to flare up, and not waiting for the academy's elder to say anything, Yiqing Luo struck first to gain the initiative, as she slowly squinted her charming eyes, as a trace of sly and cunning smile appeared in her eyes. Before participating in the test of strength, the dean had specifically instructed me that in order to ensure the fairness of the test of strength and the interclass competition, I cannot use the power of the divine dragon, holy beast, or divine weapon. Yiqing Luo's voice was light and sweet-sounding. However, each and every word was filled with an inviolable boldness. Chapter 1036. Questioning the director's prestige? That student was scared out of his wits as he sat down on the ground, staring blankly at Yiqing Luo's direction, forgetting to refute. Moreover, in the heavenly pagoda, there are 4 masters inspecting the entire process and there is also a master of justice probing at any time. I cheated? So, what you're implying is that the 4 masters and justice master are helping the Devil class to cheat. One after another, the cauldron smashed directly onto that student's head. That student was immediately smashed until he was dizzy and fainted from fright. Yiqing Luo's words also made those who were full of doubts shut their mouths. From the beginning to the end, the four masters and Master of Justice as well as the director did not accuse Yiqing Luo at all. It was obvious that the devil class did not cheat in the heavenly pagoda. Without using the power of the divine weapon. Without borrowing the power of the divine dragon and sacred beast. Yiqing Luo alone, how could she successfully pass the ability test with the other 9 wastes? Then, that Yiqing Luo, how strong was she? Cough cough cough. Master of Justice coughed a few times. It was wrong of Yiqing Luo to hit someone in public. But he did it for the director's prestige, to maintain the fairness of the academy. This slap really could not be blamed on Yiqing Luo. Master of Justice raised his face with a smile. Congratulations to the devil class for passing the ability test and can participate in the Heavenly Academy's annual interclass competition. I hope the devil class can obtain a good result in the competition. Yiqing Luo smiled in a neither servile nor overbearing manner as she bowed to Master of Justice. Thank you for your praise. Borrowing Master's auspicious words, devil class will definitely work hard in the interclass competition to win glory for the class and the academy. After a few exchanges of greetings, Master of Justice let Yiqing Luo and the rest go back to rest first. After all, the test in the heavenly pagoda would cause a strong impact on the student's soul and willpower. They needed to rest for a day or two before they could recover to normal. Yiqing Luo led the 9 of them and after bowing to everyone she retreated. As if she didn't care about the sensation she had caused in everyone's hearts. On the high platform, Yun Duan stroked his white beard and pursed his lips meaningfully. Student Ye's innate talent, it's a pity to leave her in the devil class. Never thought she could really create a miracle. The elders at the side immediately nodded in agreement. Devil class being the first to pass the test was indeed inconceivable. The test in the heavenly pagoda was designed by the elders' division, the teachers' division, and the headmaster himself. They knew better than anyone how difficult it was. Principal, do you think student Yi should? Yun Duan looked at the principal wanting to discuss with him. Only to see the dean staring at the direction where the devil class had disappeared in a daze, his usual dignified face faintly flashed a hint of ruthlessness. Ruthless? Yun Duan furrowed his eyebrows wanting to take a closer look, but the dean had already glanced at him. Student Yi has already rejected my request. Cloud was startled. Refuse? To enter the class of gods? Could it be that the news of the 2 cold-faced instructors jointly allowing Yiqing Luo to enter the class of gods was actually true? It was not that the dean did not agree. Or was it Yiqing Luo who refused to enter the class of gods? It doesn't matter, no matter which class you are in, student Yi is still a student of the Heavenly Academy. The dean waved his hand and looked at Master Mo who was beside him. Chapter 1037. Mo Xian, who was seated at the main seat, leaned back on the soft chair with an extremely lazy expression. After hearing the director's words, he shot a glance at the director with an elegant expression. Devil class's achievements are all due to the student's ability, it has nothing to do with me. Yes. The director agreed with a flattering smile, obviously treating Mo Xian's words as an excuse. Devil class's students, just based on Yiqing Luo alone, could bring along 9 wastes to pass the Heavenly Pagoda's ability assessment. The director would rather believe that all these were due to Mo Xian's transformation of those wastes in the past few months. Mo Xian was too lazy to explain. He lifted his eyelids lazily as his vision was fixed on the figure who had already disappeared from the heavenly square. His eyes were slightly deep. Senior Mo, let's take a look at the second class to successfully walk out of the Heavenly Pagoda. The director hadn't finished his words. Suddenly he felt a cold breeze brushing past his cheeks. His white robe fluttered in the wind. Like a deity, he flashed past the director's eyes. Senior Mo. The director hurriedly stood up and wanted to chase after him. But he saw that white figure, in a blink of an eye, had already disappeared in front of him. Senior Mo? The director was astonished, puzzled about Senior Mo's departure. But he saw many gazes because he had stood up, all looked over. He then put on a gentle smile and sat back down. His white brows creased slightly as his vision looked towards the empty seat. There was no Senior Mo's figure. Senior Mo What was the reason for him to leave in such a hurry? After coming out of the Heavenly Pagoda, the 10 of their souls had more or less suffered some impact. Especially the second round of the 3 corpses test, the illusion of greed, anger and obsession. It was the most impactful to the soul. After returning to Devil class, There was no extra energy to discuss with the other students about the things in the heavenly pagoda. One by one they dispersed and went back to rest. After Yi Qing Luo showed the few students, she gave each of them a stabilizing pill and returned to the dormitory with Mo Yuing. In the dormitory there were only the two of them. It was extremely quiet. Yi Qing Luo entered her own room and directly fell onto the bed. This fall, before she hit the bed, her petite body fell into a broad and warm embrace. A soothing sandalwood fragrance wafted into his nostrils. Yi Qing Luo closed her eyes and attached her body and mind onto the man. Her tone was gentle. "Why are you here? Wasn't he still watching the test of strength at the head seat of the Heavenly Plaza just now? If you're not here, what's the point of me staying?" Dmo Xian hugged the young lady in his arms tightly. His long eyelashes drooped as he gazed at her delicate little face. Yi Qing Luo's lips twitched as her little face rubbed against his chest. Following that, she opened her eyes and stared deeply at Dmo Xian's face. Her slender little hand caressed his contours. "I missed you." Miss him. Ever since she came out of the illusion, she had been thinking about him. Especially at that moment, her mind was filled with this man. The illusion told her. How important was this man to her? Her greed was only for the sake of being qualified to stand by his side. Her resentment was only because she wanted to possess everything he had. She wanted him to belong to her for all eternity. Her obsession was only to stay with him, to have a family that belonged to them, to have a child that belonged to them. Yi Qing Luo slowly tiptoed as her arms encircled his neck, and her lips pressed against his lips. Chapter 1038. Dmo Xian squinted his eyes as he stared deeply at the young lady's flushed face. She rarely relied on him so actively. What had she met in the ability assessment? Dmo Xian's hand, which was around her slender waist, moved upwards and held onto the back of her head as he turned from guest to host, deepening the kiss. Usually when he kissed in such an overbearing manner, Yi Qing Luo would more or less struggle. But this time round Yi Qing Luo cooperated as her soft tongue probed into his mouth. Yi Qing Luo's initiative made Dmo Xian lose his rationality. His eyes gradually deepened as a ball of passion flared up from the bottom of his eyes. He intensified the kiss. In the end, Yi Qing Luo could only hang on Dmo Xian's body softly, leaving an ambiguous low moan and clear stream. Separated by a thin robe, Dmo Xian's large palm instinctively moved along the soft petite body. "Ah Xian." Yi Qing Luo frantically stretched out her hand as she pressed on his large palm. This made her suddenly recall the things that Dmo Xian had done to her in the dreamland when she was infatuated with him. With his beloved in his arms, he lowered his eyes to take a look. The young lady's eyes were like silk and her face was like a peach blossom. With a moist luster, her red and swollen lips seemed to be emitting a silent seduction. As long as it was a man, upon seeing this amorous scene, how could he possibly stop? Dmo Xian was a normal man. Especially when Yi Qing Luo took the initiative to kiss him and confessed without any concealment. At this moment, Dmo Xian had already descended into madness as he pressed Yi Qing Luo onto the bed behind him. "Ah Xian." Yi Qing Luo was in a daze from the kiss, but her consciousness was still clear. Her hands weakly pushed against Dmo Xian's chest. 3,000 strands of hair had already scattered under the man's slender fingers as it scattered onto the bed. He leaned forward as his elbows were propped on the side of her body. His deep and blurry peach blossom eyes seemed to be able to captivate her soul as he looked at her affectionately. The kiss landed on her lips once again. This kiss was overbearing and overbearing. As though he was going to swallow her whole into his stomach. "Ah Xian, ah Xian." Yi Qing Luo's lashes were wet as her petite body instinctively twisted due to his teasing. Her little hand, which was pushing Dmo Xian's chest, turned into a tight grip on his clothes. Dmo Xian pecked at her swollen red lips that were stained with crystals. She moved slightly and her long legs brushed against his legs from time to time. She panted lightly, her warm breath splashing on his face. Dmo Xian's body tensed up, his breathing erratic and his eyes dark and gloomy. He stared at her bashfully. Her long hair was drenched in sweat and scattered over her shoulders. A few more strands stuck to her face. That soft and delicate body would rub against his from time to time. Dmo Xian only felt a scorching sensation surging towards his lower abdomen. Dmo Xian wasn't unfamiliar with this feeling. Every single time he kissed Yi Qing Luo, he would have this feeling. Yi Qing Luo apparently felt it too. She blushed and struggled to break free from his grip. "Ah Xian, you can't do it here," she said, Ah Xian, she admitted that just one kiss from Dmo Xian was enough to make her feel uncomfortable all over. They loved each other. Naturally, he also wanted to have her. But, at this moment in a place like the academy, she didn't know how many people from the dark forces were around, nor how many of the director's spies were there. Yiqing Luo still had a sliver of rationality left, and when Dmo Xian's fingers undid her belt, she swiftly grabbed his arm. This man, why was his mind filled with such things? Chapter 1039. Dmo Xian's eyes were burning with desire as he stared at the blushing young lady below him. Lil Luo, you really don't mean what you say. He stretched out his slender fingers and caressed her lips. His slightly calloused fingertips caressed her lips, causing Yiqing Luo's petite body to tremble slightly. He leaned close to her ear as his thin lips brushed past her earlobe as he gave a low chuckle. If I really stop, can you bear to? Yiqing Luo's cheeks turned even redder as she shyly shifted her gaze away. I can bear to quickly get off. Really bear to? Dmo Xian squinted his long peach blossom eyes as that finger which was caressing her pink lips slowly moved downwards. I need to confirm if you're lying. His finger. His gaze swept across the softness of her chest, across her flat stomach and straight down. Yiqing Luo's trembling became more and more intense as she wanted to struggle and raise her fist to pound on his chest. When his fingertips touched something, the desire in his eyes grew even more intense. He half-propped himself up as he slowly retracted his hand as his eyes were filled with an evil charm. Still want to quibble? Yiqing Luo was embarrassed as she bit her lower lip tightly as her eyelashes were already wet. This man, must he make her so embarrassed that she couldn't see anyone before he was willing to stop? How could he touch that place of hers? Lil Luo, this is your punishment for quibbling. His elbow relaxed as his burning hot chest pressed against her petite body. Yiqing Luo panicked as her watery eyes stared at him pitifully. Ah Xian, let go of me, can you let go of me first? The man's body became even more tensed. His body was pressed against hers. He leaned close to her ear as he laughed softly. Lil Luo, let me tell you, this is the consequence of a woman seducing a man. He leaned forward and was about to. Suddenly, Yiqing Luo suddenly arched her body as she took the initiative to kiss his lips. Following that, she exerted force and pressed Dmo Xian down. Dmo Xian, who was preparing to take action, had eyes filled with desire as he totally didn't notice. He was directly pressed under Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's long legs stretched out and pressed against his abdomen as she stretched out her hand to support his chest. Ah Xian, you. I didn't expect Lil Luo to be so passionate. Dmo Xian narrowed his eyes but didn't forcefully push her down again. He spread his arms, his long and charming peach blossom eyes flowed with an intoxicating light. He stuck out his tongue seductively and licked his thin lips, as if he wanted more of her taste. Since that is the case, I will reluctantly allow Lil Luo to be on top. However, can Lil Luo really do it? Yiqing Luo stared at him. About the matters between the upper and lower levels, we can talk about it in the future. We can't talk about it in the academy. She couldn't stop this man from going crazy. He could only forcefully suppress him. Only then could he regain his rationality. You want me to stop? Dmo Xian raised his eyebrows. Due to his endurance, his forehead was dripping with perspiration, messing up his black hair. Some of that black hair fell on his face like a cloud of smoke. She sprinkled a handful of it on the bed, adding a suffocating charm to this man of peerless elegance. Yiqing Luo knew how hard he was enduring as she bent over and kissed his thin lips, echoing his thoughts. There are too many spies in the academy and those students will definitely return to the dormitory to rest after they pass the round. You don't want to be disturbed in the middle, right? Dmo Xian's handsome face twitched as his brows creased. We still have a very, very long time to be together, so there's no hurry, right? Yiqing Luo caressed his face as she persuaded him in a gentle voice. Dmo Xian remained silent for a moment as he fixed his gaze on her, trying to please him. Chapter 1040. Yiqing Luo instantly blushed. This man was really... Ah Xian. Yiqing Luo helplessly closed his hand which was clasping her lower jaw. Don't you feel that this ability test is a little strange? Dmo Xian had been watching from the side. He should have heard the master's description of the test in the heavenly pagoda. She could tell that there was something wrong with this ability test. Dmo Xian should have sensed it. Indeed, after mentioning the ability test, Dmo Xian's eyes, which were filled with anger, gradually turned dark and gloomy. He frowned slightly and slowly retracted his hand from Yiqing Luo's hand. With a flip, he flipped down from Yiqing Luo's body and laid sideways. Following that, his long arms stretched out and wrapped around Yiqing Luo's body, pulling her into his embrace tightly. A hand, coincidentally, landed somewhere in front of her chest. Yiqing Luo's petite body trembled as she raised her hand to slap his unruly hand. The man intentionally squeezed his palm. Why? You want me to stop? Aren't you going to give me some benefits? Yiqing Luo's face flushed red. The hand which was holding onto his wrist slid down, but she didn't stop him or ask for any benefits. She only muttered softly, "Don't move." Dmo Xian's narrow long eyes dimmed slightly as his lips curled meaningfully. "Don't worry, I will only touch and not move." These words sounded a little wrong. Why did she feel that? Was it because of some color? Had she been led astray by Dmo Xian? Yiqing Luo shook her head, trying to get rid of the wild thoughts in her mind. She heard the man's low hoarse voice. "You should have sensed it in the heavenly pagoda. This test is not the so-called ability test, but another kind of test." Yiqing Luo collected those messy thoughts in her eyes and nodded. "Yes, it is a test of the student's soul. It involved the soul, and that was the King of Darkness from the Dark Forces. The director was working with the Dark Forces. Which meant to say this ability test was in fact to help the King of Darkness to select a pure, profound cultivator's soul as a sacrifice. Or perhaps the interclass competition was suddenly brought forward by 5 months. It caused a huge sensation in Nirvana realm. This was also what the King of Darkness wanted. I don't understand, why did the Dark Forces suddenly need souls so urgently? Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased as she leaned into Dmo Xian's arms, raising her head to look at him. Moreover, they urgently need pure and clean souls. Dmo Xian added. That was right. He desperately needed a pure and clean soul. Could it be that something happened to the King of Darkness? Right now, this was the only explanation. The King of Darkness had been chased out of the Nirvana realm hundreds of years ago. He had endured for hundreds of years. It was impossible for him not to be willing to wait for a few short years. Through the heavenly Dean, the King of Darkness must have gathered thousands of souls. He was not in a hurry to revive immediately, unless the King of Darkness was in trouble. That was why he continued to sense the pure soul of a profound practitioner, to replenish his dark energy, and to undo the seal on his body ahead of time. If that was the case, those students who had passed the 3 tests of the Upper Profound Pagoda or the 3 Corpses Illusory Realm test in the second test would be able to cleanse themselves of their greed, anger, and obsession. I'm afraid it's going to be dangerous. They would become the targets of the Dark Forces. Chapter 1041. His 5 slender fingers subconsciously clenched. It felt so good that he couldn't bear to part with it. Yiqing Luo felt as if she got an electric shock. She raised her fist and hammered him. We're talking about serious matters. Can you stop fooling around? Driving off at the slightest disagreement. She wasn't able to react in time. Dmo Xian's body leaned slightly as he leaned closer to her and immediately lowered his head as he planted a kiss on her lips. Aren't I talking about serious matters with you? Yiqing Luo patted the back of his hand. Take your hand away. Dmo Xian raised his brows. A mischievous glint flashed past his eyes. Immediately, his fingers became more and more wanton. Yiqing Luo couldn't struggle at all. She could only blush and hold his hand tightly, not letting him move. Dmo Xian's eyes were filled with smiles. He really loved her bashful look. This kind of expression that only fell for him. Yiqing Luo's face was flushed red and she was about to get angry. Dmo Xian then restrained himself and pretended to be serious as he continued. Once the news of the Dark Forces infiltrating Nirvana realm is spread to the Upper Realm will definitely send someone to carry out the second expulsion. Second expulsion? Yiqing Luo's thoughts were instantly diverted. She looked up and frowned doubtfully. Will the people from the Upper Realm know about this? Nirvana realm was also known as the Mortal Realm. As for the Upper Realm, it was a realm that spanned a distance of 108,000 miles. It was the Upper Realm that was far above the Upper Realm. How could the Upper Realm know about the news of the Mortal Realm? Every realm in the Upper Realm will send 1 to 10 peace messengers to hide their identity and live in the next realm. This is also a way to keep each other in check and maintain peace. Dmo Xian explained. Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up when she heard that. That means there are people from the Upper Realm in our Nirvana realm? The peace messengers of Nirvana realm are from the Earth realm. Dmo Xian's tone was indifferent. His tone and expression made it seem like the people from the Earth realm were just trash to him. People from the Earth realm? To Yiqing Luo this was an exciting thing. After all, if a person who was called trash in the Earth domain came to the Nirvana realm, that person would be called a high-level profounder. It was precisely because the people of each plane were not on the same level in terms of ability, talent, and strength. That was why the ambassadors of peace were needed to keep each other in check. This was the only way to prevent people from other planes from going to a lower plane and stirring up trouble. If the people from the upper realm intervene, the dark forces without the King of Darkness will not be able to do anything. Yiqing Luo pondered for a moment. Moreover, once the matter regarding the King of Darkness is known by the people from the upper realm, in order to prevent future troubles, the people from the upper realm will definitely think of a way to eliminate all future troubles. Diamo Xian nodded with a smile. Lil Luo, is indeed smart, just a few words and you can already deduce most of it. It was rare to be praised by Diamo Xian. Yiqing Luo's face blushed slightly as she lowered her eyelids and snuggled into his arms. So, because of me, the news of the dark forces has already spread throughout the Nirvana realm. The King of Darkness wants to remove the seal as soon as possible so that he can take over the Nirvana realm as soon as possible. During the confrontation with the patriarch of the Yuchi family, she had thrown out the dark forces and had already infiltrated into the Nirvana realm. Furthermore, she had made use of the dark forces' forbidden arts to control quite a number of people. In the Nirvana realm, there were people who could be called out by their names. Chapter 1042. After that, under the deliberate embellishment of the 3,000 peach blossoms, numerous Nirvana realm's younger generation now all knew about the viciousness of the dark forces. They also knew about the battle between the dark forces and Nirvana realm, which cultivator would allow their territories to be occupied by others, if they were willing to be occupied. Now Nirvana realm would not be divided into four. Yiqing Luo had grasped these people's mentality, so she specially took the opportunity of that battle to spread the news. During the interclass competition, you'd better be careful. The dark forces' final target is you. Diamo Xian's hand finally stopped teasing her. If he continued to tease her, in the end, the one who would feel uncomfortable would be himself. He gently caressed Yiqing Luo's hair as his voice was gentle. Lil Luo, leave the dark forces matters to me and the Imperial Palace to settle. You just need to protect yourself, understand? But the dark forces were not something that she could avoid even if she wanted to. Right from the start, the dark forces' target was her. Even if she didn't initiate contact with the dark forces, the dark forces would definitely revolve around her. I will be by your side. Diamo Xian's lips curled up as his fingertips gently rubbed her eyes. You should be tired after the Heavenly Pagoda assessment. Have a good rest. Yiqing Luo was just about to reply, but the drowsiness made it hard for her to resist. Her long eyelashes fluttered as she fell into a deep sleep. Diamo Xian gazed deeply at the sleeping person in his arms as his dense long lashes drooped slightly. He slowly retracted his hand, which was used as a pillow, as he quietly left the bed. His gaze congealed outside the window. Wind, what's the matter? Yes. If it wasn't for the fact that he sensed Wind was outside the window, looking for him urgently, how could Diamo Xian possibly stop being intimate with Yiqing Luo because of the dark forces? Wind had always been sensible. If it wasn't an urgent matter, he would definitely not do so. As expected, Diamo Xian's words had just ended when a black shadow flashed past. A black-robed young man with a sword by his waist knelt in front of Diamo Xian. Overlord, the Imperial Palace has an express secret letter to report. Diamo Xian nodded slightly. He glanced at the person who was sleeping soundly on the bed. His deep eyes darkened as he said indifferently, "Take good care of her." Wind cupped his fists. Understood. By the time Yiqing Luo woke up, it was already the next morning. Outside the dormitory, there were several female students conversing loudly. Lu Xiaoyu's anger and Mo Yuying's emotionless voice could be heard. Trash class is trash, Yudon is trash, and you don't have the ability. A trashy class will always be a trashy class. You don't even have the ability to participate in the interclass competition. This voice was rather familiar. Immediately after, another voice could be heard. Mo Yuying, look at your cowardly look. I can easily push you down with one finger. Perhaps that person really went to push Mo Yuying. Then Lu Xiaoyu's delicate voice rang out. Let's see who dares to move. Just a few days ago he was still fawning over Qing Luo, and today he wanted to bully Qing Luo's classmate. If you dare to make a move, I will go to the faculty council and complain. Go ahead. The vice president is here. If you have the ability, go ahead. That female student snorted, full of disdain. Chapter 1043. Enough. Lu Shuiyu's voice was icy cold, making a ruckus in the dormitory. What a scandal. Those few female students humped softly and kept their mouths shut. Yiqing Luo finally understood. These few people, weren't they those students who came to the dormitory during the holidays to please her? So quickly they were bought over by Lu Shuiyu again? Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laugh. She wondered what was the meaning of these rich young ladies forming cliques all day long. As if they were able to hug someone's thigh, they would be able to bully others. Yiqing Luo only heard a few sentences and roughly guessed the situation outside. Probably because of the Heavenly Pagoda's ability assessment. As a high profound class student, Lu Shuiyu naturally felt embarrassed. These female students once again hugged Lu Shuiyu's thigh, naturally wanted to stand up for their eldest sister. So they came to Yiqing Luo's dormitory and found Mo Ying, who stayed in the same dormitory as Yiqing Luo, who was also a devil class student, to vent their anger. When Lu Xiaoyu saw this, she would definitely be infuriated and lend a helping hand. Which resulted in the current situation. In the dormitory hall, Lu Shuiyu sat elegantly on the wooden chair, her fingers hooked around the teacup as she took a sip. Student Lu Xiaoyu, please remember that this is the dormitory, this is the academy, not a place for a spoiled child like you to throw a tantrum. Lu Xiaoyu's face flushed red as she pointed at Lu Shuiyu furiously. That's right, so what if I'm spoilt by my parents? At least I live honestly, I know what friendship is and how to protect my friends. Speaking of this, Lu Xiaoyu's lips curled upwards, revealing a sneer of ridicule. Right, we share the same surname Lu, but our statuses are different. You're the noble eldest Miss Lu, I'm just an ordinary well-off Lu family's youngest daughter, but at least I have my father, my mother dotes on me, loves you. You, other than that pitiful arrogance, what else do you have? Lu Xiaoyu's words were powerful and resonant. The expression on her face was filled with righteousness. Lu Shuiyu's face turned green and white. Seeing the change in Lu Shuiyu's expression, the female students behind her immediately stepped forward and pushed Lu Xiaoyu. How dare you insult the vice president? This young lady will teach you a lesson on behalf of the vice president. With that, she raised her hand and slapped Lu Xiaoyu's face. However, this slap did not have the time to land. However, a small pink figure rushed over. His small head happened to bump into the female student's abdomen. The female student felt an excruciating pain as if her internal organs had been shattered. She collapsed to the ground, unconscious. Mo Ying. The other four female students stared at Mo Ying in disbelief. This trash dared to use his head to talk back to them? A female student's expression instantly turned ferocious. She had long disliked Mo Ying's small stature. She looked small and delicate, like an 11 or 12-year-old little girl, but she purposely put on a stupid expression. She had seduced quite a few students in the academy and they were all interested in Mo Ying. This Mo Ying, who had always been bullied, never retaliated when hit, never retaliated when scolded. She dared to use her head to hurt their people. Mo Ying, how dare you hit a student in front of the vice president? Chapter 1044. Four female students surrounded Mo Ying with a sinister expression. Their faces were filled with disdain as though they were trying to strangle an ant. How dare you? I'm going to tell the director. Lu Xiaoyu frantically pulled Mo Ying over and stood in front of her. She couldn't beat these few female students, but she absolutely could not let Mo Ying get hurt. Mo Ying was Yiqing Luo's classmate and had saved her earlier. She had to protect Mo Ying. Beat the both of them together. A female student shouted and got the support of the other three female students. All of them started to attack Lu Xiaoyu's back mercilessly. Ah! A shrill scream was heard. Then a petite figure flew out into the sky. It crashed into Lu Shuiyu's room door and gave out a heavy crash. Immediately it rolled onto the ground and spat out a big mouthful of blood. The direction it rolled towards was coincidentally Lu Shuiyu's direction. This mouthful of blood, coincidentally sprayed onto Lu Shuiyu's skirt, splattering a patch of bright red. High profound class and intermediate profound class students can't afford to lose. A clear and melodious laughter was heard, like pearls falling onto a plate. Yiqing Luo's room door was opened and Yiqing Luo was dressed in a simple and loose green uniform as she leaned against the door lazily. Her slender fingers were playing with a strand of hair on her shoulder. Her stunning face was filled with ridicule. "I'm so sorry, Devil class is so lucky, just happened to have 10 people. And snatched your first place. Qing Luo." Lu Xiaoyu's face was filled with joy as she immediately pulled Mo Yuing and dashed towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. As long as Yi Qing Luo appeared. Even if Lu Shuiyu personally made a move, she would not be able to gain any advantage. After dashing to Yi Qing Luo's side, Lu Xiaoyu then made a face at Lu Shuiyu's direction. Lu Shuiyu narrowed her cold eyes and glanced at the blood stains on her skirt. She raised her leg without hesitation and kicked the female student who was beside her leg away. She immediately stood up and looked at Yi Qing Luo coldly. "Can't afford to lose?" Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. "Could it be that the vice president can afford to lose?" Yi Qing Luo gave a light laugh as she crossed her arms over her chest and walked towards her languidly. "I'm so sorry, Devil class got the first place in the ability assessment, so it's like the boat rises with the tide and you're so complacent. Why, you're not convinced?" Lu Shuiyu's face darkened. He opened his mouth and was about to speak when he was interrupted by Yi Qing Luo. "Even if the Devil class doesn't have any abilities, they are still number 1 in the ability assessment. Even if they don't have the right to participate in the interclass competition, they still have the right to be number 1 in the ability assessment and participate in the interclass competition. Why, you're not convinced? My Devil class, just because we got the first place we use our connections to bully others, what about it? You're not convinced?" Lu Shuiyu was rendered speechless by the 3 consecutive, "I'm not convinced." Following that, Yi Qing Luo's slender brows rose as her eyes remained calm. "If you're not convinced, then hold it in. Yi Qing Luo. You're going too far." The female student who was standing beside Lu Shuiyu stared at Yi Qing Luo in fear. As soon as he said those words, he shrank back as if he had seen a ghost. Yi Qing Luo didn't bother about that female student at all. Her charming eyes gazed at Lu Shuiyu without blinking, waiting for her response. Lu Shuiyu narrowed her cold eyes as her aloof expression turned frosty. After some time, she shifted her gaze away and left the dormitory without even turning back. In the dormitory hall, 3 female students laid on the ground and had been forgotten. Lu Shuiyu didn't have the time to bother about them. Chapter 1045. Once Qing Luo appears, who dares to challenge her? Lu Xiaoyu smiled mischievously and stretched out her hand to hold Yi Qing Luo's arm. "Let's see how arrogant those people are going to be." Yi Qing Luo poked her forehead. "The most arrogant one is you." Lu Xiaoyu stuck out her tongue and rubbed her little face on Yi Qing Luo's shoulder. "I'm not arrogant, this is called bravery in order to protect the person I want to protect, incomparably brave." Yi Qing Luo was amused. Mo Yuing, who was standing behind them, stared at the 2 people who were laughing. His empty eyes blinked as if he didn't understand why they were smiling so happily. After being frozen for some time, when Yi Qing Luo's smiling gaze met hers, Mo Yuing made a. It was an action that shocked everyone present. She held onto Yi Qing Luo's arm expressionlessly, learning from Lu Xiaoyu's action, leaning her head on Yi Qing Luo's body. His little face rubbed against Yi Qing Luo's arm. After rubbing for some time, she took another look at the dazed Lu Xiaoyu and saw that her head was placed on Yi Qing Luo's shoulder. Mo Yuing stretched out both her hands towards Yi Qing Luo as she jumped around with all her might, trying to reach Yi Qing Luo's shoulders. Yi Qing Luo burst into laughter as she slowly squatted down and wrapped her arms around Mo Yuying's petite body. "Shadow, come, let sister hug you." Mo Yuying's paralyzed face stared at Yi Qing Luo for some time. His gaze immediately fell onto Yi Qing Luo's shoulder. Stretching out her arm, she looped it around Yi Qing Luo's neck and placed her face on Yi Qing Luo's shoulder. Yuing also knows how to act coquettishly. Lu Xiaoyu seemed to have discovered a new continent as her eyes were filled with amazement. "I thought that Yuing would only be like a wooden person not easy to get along with. I didn't expect that. Yuing is so cute." Mo Yuing ignored her screams, only quietly burying it on Yi Qing Luo's shoulder. His face was still expressionless, but his pair of lifeless eyes was gradually covered with a faint expression. Yi Qing Luo was really warm. It made her feel human warmth. Devil class. After passing the strength test yesterday, the souls of the students had been impacted. One by one they dispersed. As for Qiao Jin and Long Yunzhan, one went to the class committee room, and the other went to the spiritual Qi treasured land. Both of them were unable to calm down. He didn't show his face for an entire day. In the class committee room, Qiao Jin placed his feet on the wooden table and slumped into his chair. A pair of dark and gloomy eyes looked ahead without any focus. No one knew what he was thinking. Her long eyelashes couldn't hide the green at the corner of her eyes. It seemed like he hadn't slept all night. Indeed, he had not slept the entire night. As long as he closed his eyes, the image of a smiling face would appear in front of him. That smile was affectionate and sweet. Word by word she called him gently, "Ah Jean." It was Yan Xiaoyi. His mind was filled with Yan Xiaoyi's smiling face. The Yan Xiaoyi in the illusion, the Yan Xiaoyi who had deep feelings for him, it was like a scene that kept replaying in his mind. Ever since he returned to Devil class, Xiao Jin had been sitting here, recalling everything that had happened in the dreamland. In his illusion the first two were very normal. But in the infatuation of the third stage he saw Yan Xiaoyi. In the illusion they were husband and wife. In the illusion she gave him an enchanting smile, bewitching all living beings. In the illusion they almost became one. He almost got corroded by the illusion and wanted to stay in the illusion, to spend the rest of his life with Yan Xiaoyi. The illusion of infatuation, why was it Yan Xiaoyi? Could it be that he towards Yan Xiaoyi? Chapter 1046. Her voice stopped abruptly when she saw the people in the class committee room. She turned around and walked away as though she didn't see Xiao Jin. This voice startled Xiao Jin. He looked up only to see her turn and leave. His brows furrowed, his body instinctively moving forward to grab her wrist. "Yan Xiaoyi, stop right there. Let go." Yan Xiaoyi pursed her red lips and flung his hand away. She didn't turn around to look at him. Xiao Jin held onto her shoulders forcefully and straightened her. "Running when you see me? Are you so afraid of me?" Yan Xiaoyi's face was sullen. She bit her red lips and was obviously angered by his words. "I'm afraid of you? Xiao Jin, don't you have any shame? Let go of me." Xiao Jin's jade-like eyes narrowed. There was an unfathomable depth in his eyes. He stared at the imprisoned Yan Xiaoyi, looking at her pretty face which was flushed with a faint blush due to sullen anger. Something soft seemed to have hit a certain spot in his heart. The empty spot in his heart seemed to have been filled up by something. This was the feeling he wanted. In the illusion he was able to recognize the illusion, and it was also because this feeling was missing between him and Yan Xiaoyi. "Xiao Jin, what do you want? You don't want to see me. So let's go our separate ways and not disturb each other. What else do you want?" Yan Xiaoyi narrowed her eyes. She couldn't control the feelings that overflowed from the bottom of her heart when she touched him. She wanted to struggle, but Xiao Jin held her hands down after hearing her words. The door of the class committee room was slammed shut with a bang. Yan Xiaoyi's back was pressed against the wooden door. Xiao Jin held her arms high up and pressed her against the wall with one hand. Women were naturally weaker than men in terms of strength. Not to mention a man who was stronger than her. Yan Xiaoyi couldn't struggle at all. Instead, she was easily restrained by Xiao Jin. "I don't want to see you?" Xiao Jin narrowed his eyes and stared fixedly at the blushing young lady. He didn't know why, but a raging fire surged in his chest. He didn't want to hear any words like, "I don't want to see him," or, "Go our separate ways" from Yan Xiaoyi's mouth. That rage burned Xiao Jin's rationality. At this moment, Xiao Jin didn't even know what he was doing. He only followed his own heart, the other hand tightly wrapped around Yan Xiaoyi's waist. His slender fingers pinched her waist fiercely. Xiao Jin purposely moved closer to Yan Xiaoyi's ear when he said, "N." She gently exhaled a warm breath. Yan Xiaoyi's whole body trembled, her face blushing. She was embarrassed, but more so, she was angered by him. "And me, I also don't want to see." A kiss strong and domineering. It landed heavily on Yan Xiaoyi's red lips. Compared to the forceful kiss last time without any technique. This time Xiao Jin clearly grasped the trick. After kissing her red lips, he began to nibble on them, teasing her. He didn't give Yan Xiaoyi any chance to defend herself. A strong masculine scent filled her nostrils. Yan Xiaoyi didn't have the strength to resist at all. Her entire body went limp in Xiao Jin's arms. She could barely breathe. This bastard, what did he want? Why did he suddenly kiss her? Xiaoyi. He stopped kissing her lips. His silver-haired lips slowly moved to her ears. His soft call was low and sexy. Yan Xiaoyi's delicate body instinctively trembled. Because of his deliberate exhalation, tiny goosebumps appeared on his pink skin. Chapter 1047. Your body's reaction tells me that your heart and your mouth are not the same. Xiao Jin's head rested on her shoulder. As he breathed in Yan Xiaoyi's cold fragrance, the feeling of his heart being filled grew stronger. He couldn't help but pull the corners of his lips, revealing a smile that even he himself didn't notice. You. Yan Xiaoyi's cheeks instantly turned red. Before he could react, she struggled to free her hands, raised her palms and threw a slap towards his face. Utterly shameless. As though he had guessed her next move. Coincidentally, Xiao Jin caught her slap and pressed it against the wooden door again. This is the first day you met me, and now you know that I'm shameless? Yan Xiaoyi was furious. Xiao Jin pursed his thin lips and stared at her slightly red cheeks. After a long while he retracted his hands. He only gently wrapped his arms around her waist, his head still buried in her neck. Xiaoyi, don't say anything that will make me angry. Yan Xiaoyi's body stiffened. She couldn't get used to Xiao Jin's inexplicable gentleness and intimacy. It seemed, ever since Tao Tao had appeared, they could no longer get along like they used to. Especially after he forcefully kissed her and took away her first kiss, the atmosphere between them became increasingly strange. They shouldn't be like this. They were partners who cooperated with each other, brothers who supported each other. If they were tainted with feelings between them, it wouldn't be that pure anymore. Feelings? She really didn't want to be tainted, didn't want to touch them. Especially when the other party was Xiao Jin. The person he liked wasn't her. Yan Xiaoyi had her own pride and dignity. If Xiao Jin didn't love her, she wouldn't take the initiative to express her feelings. She wouldn't give Xiao Jin any chance to hurt her. Wouldn't wait for her to confess her true feelings, and then watch him be with another woman. And leave her alone to feel sad. Yan Xiaoyi's expression gradually turned cold. Her delicate face seemed to be covered with a layer of frost. She looked at the man on top of her, her voice cold. Xiao Jin, if you don't want me to make you angry, then let me go. I didn't come here to look for you. If Tong Ziqing hadn't told her that Long Yunzhan was waiting for her in the class committee room, saying that he had something to discuss with her regarding the ability test, it was impossible for her to come here. He did not expect to enter the class committee room. There was only Xiao Jin here, Long Yunzhan wasn't here at all. She realized that she had been fooled by Tong Ziqing. She wanted to leave, but Xiao Jin didn't let her. He was clearly the one who had been avoiding her. You're not looking for me? Looking for the class leader? Xiao Jin sneered, and the hand that was wrapped around her waist suddenly tightened. So, seeing that the class monitor isn't here, you're disappointed? He clearly knew that the relationship between Yan Xiaoyi and Long Yunzhan was that of companions and brothers. However, the words slipped out of his mouth on their own. He couldn't stop her. He could only use his jade-like eyes to stare deeply at her expression. He wanted to see through her eyes and see what she was thinking. As expected, Yan Xiaoyi's expression was sullen. The petite body nestled in his arms was also trembling with anger. Xiao Jin. Get lost. Yan Xiaoyi bellowed. How could he insult her like this? It doesn't matter if you don't like her. Why did he use such words to belittle her feelings? In his eyes, were her feelings that cheap? As long as it was a man, she could accept it? He couldn't be clearer about the relationship between her and the class monitor, wasn't he? Yan Xiaoyi only felt that she was in an ice house so cold that it was bone-chilling. It wasn't just the coldness of her body. Chapter 1048. After a long while, Yan Xiaoyi's long eyelashes fluttered. She looked up with a calm gaze and said emotionlessly, "Yes, I'm very disappointed that I didn't see the class monitor." After a pause, her lips curled and a self-mocking sneer flashed across her eyes. Especially, seeing you here, I'm even more disappointed. That feeling of coldness was accompanied by pain. Bone-chilling cold and bone-chilling pain. Her remaining pride was trampled on by him. Yan Xiaoyi, this mouth of yours really makes people want to ruthlessly seal it. Xiao Jin's eyes darkened and his dark eyes were filled with anger. His body pressed down and his long slender legs forced their way between her legs. His fingers clasped the back of her head, and he fiercely kissed her mouth, which always said things that made him uncontrollably furious. This woman was more adorable when she didn't speak. Yan Xiaoyi moaned softly and raised her hand to hit his chest, struggling to not let him invade. Perhaps men were naturally talented in this aspect. Xiao Jin, who only had 2 kissing experiences, had already learned the essence. He easily turned Yan Xiaoyi's resistance into nothingness. She couldn't move at all. She forced herself to accept Xiao Jin's domineering kiss. This kiss didn't make Yan Xiaoyi feel the slightest bit of sweetness. Instead, there was intense pain and bitterness. He didn't love her. But he did such things to her several times. He even slandered her relationship with Long Yunzhan. Yan Shaoyi remembered it clearly. The last time when Xiao Jin kissed her forcefully, he clearly didn't have any technique and only knew how to bite her. This time she felt weak all over and couldn't handle it. Although she didn't understand, she understood common sense. This kind of technique wasn't something that could be mastered after just 1 or 2 times. Was it Tao Tao? This name made Yan Shaoyi feel even more bitter. Women always liked to let their imaginations run wild. At this moment, it was inevitable that she would make wild guesses because of Xiao Jin's change. Was it because of the critical moment of the interclass competition and Xiao Jin couldn't appear to see Tao Tao, so he used her as a substitute? Would he kiss Tao Tao after he got better at it? Her eyes suddenly widened. Unconcealable pain flashed across her eyes. Xiao Jin captured this trace of pain. His kiss paused for a moment. Following that, Xiao Jin's kiss became even more ferocious. Did she hate his kisses that much? Did she really not want him to touch her? He wanted her to remember his kiss and his taste. He wanted her to become just like him, only thinking about him in her head. This thought caused a certain impulse in Xiao Jin's heart to become even more intense. Yan Shaoyi was kissed until she could only lean on him and barely stand up straight. He wanted to struggle, but it felt like he was scratching an itch. On the contrary, it seemed like he was trying to resist, but he was trying to entice Xiao Jin. She turned her head to avoid his kiss. In the next instant, her body felt light as Xiao Jin carried her by the waist. Ah! She was so frightened that she let out a soft cry. Only the sound of things falling to the ground could be heard. Then her body was placed on the table. Yan Shaoyi had yet to react and was about to get up. Xiao Jin's boiling hot body had already pressed down. Xiao Jin. Yan Shaoyi realized something and her expression changed instantly. What are you doing? Xiao Jin gave a low laugh and kissed her neck. Can't you tell what I want to do? As soon as his kiss touched her skin, she felt a chill run down her spine. Yan Shaoyi trembled all over. Her eyes were already wet. Those were tears from being angered by Xiao Jin. And tears from being seduced by Xiao Jin. Chapter 1049. Do you know what you're doing? Yan Shaoyi panted lightly, trying her best to restrain her cloud of emotions. Xiao Jin lifted his head, his elbow propped on the side of her body. I don't know. Yan Shaoyi was speechless and turned her face away. She really had nothing to say to this man. What did he want to do? Did he feel a sense of achievement by teasing her? This level can make you absent-minded? Xiao Jin's voice suddenly came close to her ear. That voice, with a hint of desire, under deliberate suppression, revealed a husky magnetism. Looks like I have to work harder. As soon as he finished speaking, his warm thin lips sucked on her earlobe. And? Yan Shaoyi moaned, her consciousness about to disperse. Xiao Jin's eyes leapt up with a hint of a smile. He liked to see Yan Shaoyi reveal such an expression because of him. He liked to hear Yan Shaoyi's coquettish voice. He wanted Yan Shaoyi's mind to be filled with only him. His actions became more and more fanatical. Her meaning became more and more abstracted. Her entire body had already turned into a puddle of water, bearing all of Xiao Jin's actions. Yan Shaoyi only came back to her senses when she felt a chill in front of her. Her top had been unbuttoned at some point. Xiao Jin's kiss was about to fall. She raised her hand and slapped Xiao Jin's face. Pah! A deafening sound, extremely loud and clear. It also smashed the ambiguous feelings between the two of them. Xiao Jin's dark jade eyes, filled with desire, gradually focused and fixed on Yan Shaoyi's face. His pupils contracted, his face somewhat pale. What was he doing? Why did he feel like he couldn't control himself when he saw Yan Shaoyi? At that time he saw Yan Shaoyi walk into the class committee room. He was ecstatic. He saw her turn and leave. He knew that he couldn't let her leave just like that. So he stopped Yan Shaoyi. He didn't want Yan Shaoyi to leave. He used such a method to force her to stay. To Yan Shaoyi, so sorry? Xiao Jin turned over and got up from her. His entire body was tense, unable to recover from his loss of control. At this moment, if Xiao Jin still didn't understand his feelings, so he would be even more of a pig than a pig. He liked Yan Shaoyi. He didn't know when it started, but he had fallen in love with this girl. She was always bickering with him, never obeying his orders, and yet he couldn't take his eyes off her. However, he had done such a thing to her. It was the first time they hugged secretly. The second forceful kiss. The third time, he pinned her under his body. She must hate him to the core. No, he could not let her hate him. Xiao Jin clenched his fists and prepared himself mentally. He turned around and lowered his head to apologize to Yan Xiaoyi. Xiaoyi, I'm sorry, you can hit me or scold me, don't hate me. Before he could say the word, pa. Another resounding slap landed on his face. Yan Xiaoyi clutches her clothes tightly and slides down from the table. Xiaoyi. Xiao Jin pursed his lips, not dodging. He could only endure her anger. He lifted his eyes and looked at Yan Xiaoyi. As long as she calmed down, she could hit him however she wanted. However, when he saw Yan Xiaoyi, Xiao Jin's gaze couldn't be shifted away. Yan Xiaoyi was so embarrassed that her face was red to the ears. Her lively beautiful eyes, under Yun Liqing, added a bit of charm. To him that was a fatal poison. He opened his mouth, wanting to express his feelings. Chapter 1050. Xiao Jin was slightly taken aback as he saw Yan Xiaoyi gathering her clothes and getting up to escape. In his panic, he immediately grabbed her arm. Xiaoyi, listen to me. His voice suddenly paused, because he saw Yan Xiaoyi's reddened eyes. She stared at him with her beautiful watery eyes that were tinged with redness. That delicate little face was expressionless. Xiao Jin's heart felt as if it was being pierced by needles, a tearing pain. Yan Xiaoyi, such a strong-willed woman. Such a strong woman. Even in the Yan family, Yan Zhenfei deliberately ostracized and framed him. She was a truly talented young lady of the Yan family, but she had been reduced to a useless servant girl who was despised by the entire Yan family. She was able to grit her teeth and endure it. With her own ability, she had secretly made plans for her future. After entering the devil class, her innate talent caught the eye of Long Yunzhan. After formal training, she successfully joined the class committee. No matter how hard it was or how tired she was, she never complained about it. She was so strong that she didn't seem like a woman. But now she cried. Because of him, such a strong woman had cried. Looking at her reddened eyes, the words that Xiao Jin was about to say got stuck in his throat and he couldn't spit them out. His heart was filled with grief. His heart ached to the extreme. His grip on Yan Xiaoyi's hand gradually loosened. Yan Xiaoyi retracted her gaze, not wanting to look at him again. His eyes were filled with so much pain and so much passion. She almost had the illusion that he cared about her and valued her. He couldn't look anymore. If she fell into Xiao Jin's heart again, sooner or later she would not be herself. When the large palm on her wrist loosened, Yan Xiaoyi tightened her clothes and fled the class committee room. He did not give Xiao Jin the slightest chance to make him stay. The interclass competition was about to begin in half a month. Yiqing Luo kept all her thoughts and concentrated on giving these mercenaries the fastest and shortest explosive training. The training methods that the bunch of old fogies in the Hidden World Yi family trained the Death Warriors, were all used on the students of the Devil class. Each method was crueler than the previous. With Dmo Xian's help, the effect was extremely obvious. The students also knew the importance of this competition, and all of them trained very hard. Their fighting spirit was high and no one complained of tiredness. There were only 7 days left before the competition. Yiqing Luo gathered all the students and divided them into groups for confrontation. Last night, she told Dmo Xian and another god thief, as they snuck into the Shengguan family's residence, opened their little treasury and directly stole 10 pieces of essence and above weapons. Among them were 2 supreme being grade weapons. Although it was a pure grade weapon, it was not the best. But, to be used as weapons for the students of Devil class, it was more than enough. Yiqing Luo was planning to wait till she met suitable ones in the future to forge a supreme grade weapon for each of them. When the 10 weapons were placed on a makeshift platform in the training ground, more than 60 students stared at them with their eyes wide open. Next, I will divide you into 10 teams. You can choose members from other teams and compete against each other. Who will emerge victorious? The eyes of over 60 students lit up. It was obvious that they were extremely interested in these weapons. Originally he thought that Yiqing Luo would say, whoever obtained victory would be able to obtain these weapons. Chapter 1051. The second round of competition. Yiqing Luo naturally let the 10 of them challenge Long Yunzhan, Yan Xiaoyi, Xiao Jin and Mo Yuing. As for Baiming Lulu, Yiqing Luo gave her several prescriptions, asking her to make the best use of her time to refine pills. As for the main output, these students were more than enough. With the main output they still needed support and treatment. Baiming Lulu just happened to provide these 2 points. Moreover, as compared to training and fighting, Baiming Lulu apparently liked to refine pills more. After challenging the 4 members of the class committee, it was time to challenge DMO Xian. As long as they were able to last more than 10 rounds in DMO Xian's hands, they would obtain the rights to choose their weapons. When these students heard that, although they felt that this kind of round after round of competition was indeed too much for them, but they had to admit, it had aroused their fighting spirit. Even if there was no weapon as a reward, they also wanted to try their best to challenge the class committee, to challenge Supreme Mo. Looking at the students' fighting spirit, Yiqing Luo gave a satisfied smile. This battle is our battle to turn the tables. Let the other classes and even the other academies see clearly that we, Devil class, are not a waste class. Your current hard work will make your future filled with surprises. If you want to wash away the shame of being waste, then use your sweat to wipe away this shame. Remember this battle is not for me, not for Devil class, but for yourselves. For your own dignity, for your own future. I hope, in future, no matter where you go, there will be people using an envious and worshipping tone to say to you, wow, you are Devil class's students. Devil class will become the synonym of your glory. Yiqing Luo's sonorous voice paused as her gaze swept past them. Do you have confidence? Yes. After 5 days of sleepless resistance. Finally, there were 2 students who fought their way out of the tight encirclement, obtaining 2 weapons. One was Bei Ming Lianqing, the other was Tong Ziqing. Long Yunzhan and the others were all exhausted. Yan Xiaoyi and Mo Yuing were all covered with big and small injuries. Qiao Jin also couldn't avoid some external injuries. But the 4 of them had a relaxed and satisfied smile on their faces. Even Long Yunzhan, when he saw the students' huge improvement, his brows revealed a smile. However, what puzzled everyone was, Yan Xiaoyi and Qiao Jin did not speak during these few days of training. They didn't say a word to each other. After accepting the challenge, he led his team to fight against Qiao Jin's team. Yan Xiaoyi did not hold back at all. On the contrary, it was Qiao Jin. When facing Mo Yaing and Long Yunzhan's team, his attacks were ruthless and every move was fatal. But when it came to Yan Xiaoyi, he was so terrified that he retreated step by step. Other than passively receiving Yan Xiaoyi's attacks, he had no intention of retaliating. After a few times, Yan Xiaoyi directly refused to compete with Qiao Jin. Yiqing Luo crossed her arms in front of her chest as she squinted her eyes and stared at the strange atmosphere between the both of them. She nudged DMO Xian. What conflict are the both of them having this time? DMO Xian's shimmering peach blossom eyes glanced over as he shook his head. Apart from her, no one else mattered. Naturally, he would not bother to pay attention to it. On the other hand, Tong Ziqing, who was resting on the ground, put down the pure-grade whip in her hand and mumbled, maybe? I helped the wrong person. Yiqing Luo raised her brows and squatted down to gossip. Tell me about it. Chapter 1052. She scratched her head, and a trace of awkwardness appeared on her cold and elegant face. I think they like each other. Watching them torment each other for a few days and hiding from each other isn't a good idea, so I decided to give them a push. Who would have thought that with this push the 2 of them would no longer hide from each other? But it was obvious that Yan Xiaoyi had treated Qiao Jin as a stranger. Tong Ziqing's eyes dimmed as she subconsciously glanced at Long Yunzhan, who was as elegant as a bamboo. If, once the relationship between the brothers was exposed, it would be very painful. We can't even be friends anymore? Then would it be the same for her and Long Yunzhan? I don't even have the right to accompany Long Yunzhan? After coming out from the illusion, Tong Ziqing had thought about confessing her feelings to Long Yunzhan. But, seeing Yan Xiaoyi and Qiao Jin like this, the courage that he had summoned with great difficulty was now gone. Yiqing Luo saw Tong Ziqing's inexplicable depressed expression. Following her gaze, he saw Long Yunzhan. He immediately understood. It was never a secret that Tong Ziqing liked Long Yunzhan. However, the target was Long Yunzhan. Yiqing Luo didn't know whether to persuade her to give up or to persist. He could only remain silent and not disturb Tong Ziqing's thoughts. Perhaps sensing Yiqing Luo's gaze, Long Yunzhan glanced sideways at her. His azure blue eyes became gentle. Yiqing Luo was just about to reply with a smile when her slender waist was suddenly pulled by someone. She fell right into DMO Xian's arms. She instinctively wrapped her arms around DMO Xian's neck and glared at him in annoyance. Our classmates are all here. DMO Xian's deep eyes sunk. So what if she's here? You're Supreme Mo now. Yi Qing Luo's slender fingers poked Diamo Xian's handsome face. Don't divert the attention of the students. Diamo Xian chuckled. Who in the class doesn't know that this master has an affair with you? Except for a few members of the class committee. The other students had never thought that the person who had been guiding them was the overlord. Every time they saw Supreme Mo interacting intimately with their boss, they would feel extremely conflicted. Dizun is very good. Supreme Mo was also very good. Moreover, both of them were extremely good-looking men. Moreover, both of them doted on their boss to the heavens. Who should they help? Could he let Boss Qing Luo take both of them in? The Heavenly Academy's inter-class competition had officially started. Under the instruction of the dean, the students of the Heavenly Academy left the academy a day earlier and headed to the West Square for the competition. The inter-class competition was the highlight of every academy. It was equivalent to the midterm and final exams for students in the 21st century. For an academy, it was equivalent to a graduation exam. Naturally, he had to accept the observation and evaluation of the other academies, as well as the headquarters. The West Billow Plaza was about 200 to 300 li away from Three Springs City. The procession was majestic, parading the streets and promoting their presence. When he arrived at the West Wave Plaza, it was already close to noon. West Lawn Plaza was a special place that was often used for large-scale competitions. Because of this, 2 large residences similar to the Academy's dormitories were built far away from the Western continent. A man's mansion. A woman's mansion. It was specially provided for the participating academies to live in. Moreover, because there would often be academies coming here to set up competitions, a small town gradually formed in the vicinity of the Western continent. The entire West Wave Plaza was bustling with noise and excitement. On the first day, the director got the various classes' masters to invite the students to stay in the mansion. Chapter 1053. Devil Class Students. Yi Qing Luo didn't want the students who had seen the World Mercenary Group to recognize their identities. He specially asked Diamo Xian to give each of them a simple disguise. The men and women lived in separate residences, and they were each assigned to the most remote courtyard. Yi Qing Luo and the rest didn't mind. It didn't matter where he stayed. He would only be staying for 4 or 5 days anyway. Yi Qing Luo didn't give them a chance to rest. After lunch, he called for a group of students to go to the back mountain of Shilan Square for pre-match warm-up training. Recently, the students had been training non-stop, training day and night. Compared to the students of the other classes, they looked dispirited and dispirited. The students of Devil Class were obviously much more spirited. After lunch, the other students were preparing for tomorrow's competition. As for the students of the Devil Class, they headed towards other places in a mighty formation. The headmasters and elders as well as the onlookers turned to look at them. He seemed to be guessing which class the student belonged to. He actually had to go out and exhaust his strength during the most important rest period. A useless class is indeed a useless class. Other than eating, drinking, and having fun, you guys can't do anything. A sharp voice came from not far away. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes as she looked over. He saw Shangguan Lioli and 7 to 8 students from Intermediate Profound Class 2 coming back with bags of all sizes. Clearly, he had just returned from the market and was preparing to rest. Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but scoffed. He did not know how Shangguan Lioli, this white-eyed woman, could be so thick-skinned to say such words. Seeing Yi Qing Luo's sneer, Shangguan Lioli's expression changed immediately. What are you laughing at? Am I wrong? The competition will begin tomorrow, yet you still have the leisure to go out now. You're simply too foolish. The onlookers were enlightened. So these students are from the Devil Class, which is known as the Waste Class in the Heavenly Academy. Only the students from the useless classes would go out in groups during the most important break time. I don't know what's wrong with the Devil Class this year, to actually want to participate in the interclass competition. Several spectators from other forces began to discuss in low voices. In this era, only the strong were respected. Even though they knew that Shangguan Lioli and the others were there, they still formed a small team and went to the market to have fun. However, when they saw the class that was called trash, they went to the market to play in groups. Everyone naturally leaned towards Shangguan Lioli. But very quickly, a representative from another party whispered, "You guys don't know, I heard?" During this year's Heavenly Academy enrollment, there was an extremely talented student who could be called as the second overlord, who entered the Devil Class. The second Venerable Sovereign? Are you kidding me? Someone with such great talent would still be assigned to the Devil Class? The Heavenly Academy has been holding the title of the best academy for 5 consecutive years. Surely they wouldn't make such a low-level mistake, right? Someone immediately shook his head in doubt. These were indeed unbelievable words. He could be called the second Dizun. How powerful would that person be? How could such a powerful person be assigned to a trash class? Was the Heavenly Academy going to ascend to the heavens? It's absolutely true. This student has a great background. You must have heard of her name before, the representative said mysteriously. Chapter 1054. What? The 7th young lady of the Yi clan? You mean that useless 7th miss whose fiancé was stolen by her own elder sister? I've heard of her. Someone screamed. I didn't expect her to be the 7th young lady of the Yi family. As one of the 4 great sects, Yi Qingluo was one of the future patriarchs. Once her name was announced, all the forces of the Western continent would know of it. Even the people from other continents had heard of Yi Qingluo's notorious name. Naturally, there were also people who knew Yi Qingluo's current reputation. She's the first one to break the Heavenly Academy's admission records. In just an hour, he had passed the entrance examination. And he has a close relationship with His Majesty. Yes. Do you still remember the earth-shattering battle in the tomb of King Ling last month? He mentioned what happened in the Ling King's tomb. There was no one who didn't know. That day the divine artifact descended into the world. Countless forces went to the tomb of the Ling King just to snatch the divine artifact. Unexpectedly, they were attacked by the dark forces and suffered heavy casualties. This matter caused an uproar in the entire Western continent. Naturally, there was no one who did not know about it. That day, the person who obtained the divine weapon and summoned the divine dragon and the white tiger was the 7th young mistress of the Yi clan. When she said that, everyone's gaze towards Yi Qingluo was instantly filled with reverence and respect. The crowd looked at Yi Qingluo with sparkling eyes. He had a close relationship with Dizun. He could summon the supreme divine dragon. He could subdue the holy beast white tiger. His talent must be extremely strong, heaven-defying, to the extent that no one could reach. The last battle in King Ling's tomb, it was Yi Qingluo who took action and subdued the dark forces people. With such a powerful person around, it was no wonder that the trash class dared to participate in the interclass competition. Wait, since the 7th young mistress of the Yi family is so powerful, why was she assigned to the devil class? Don't tell me that the Heavenly Academy's dean doesn't know how to look at a student's talent? The onlookers started to raise their doubts. Logically speaking, to be able to pass the Academy's admission assessment within half an hour and break the Heavenly Academy's record over the years. No matter what, he wouldn't be assigned to the devil class, right? Everyone started to speculate about the principal's intentions. Shengguan Liuli's face turned pale. She originally wanted to ridicule Yi Qingluo for humiliating her. She had not expected that she actually pushed Yi Qingluo, making her the object of worship for the surrounding crowd. How could he feel at ease? Immediately, Shengguan Liuli said sourly, the interclass competition is a team competition. So what if student Yi is the only one who is strong? As for the other students, they are still trash. These words were indeed reasonable. Even if Yi Qingluo was so strong that no one could match her. However, the competition between classes was a competition between classes. It was not an individual competition. Student Yi, don't forget the blood oath between us. Shengguan Liuli's arrogant face was filled with a ruthless sneer. With this bunch of trash, let's see how you're going to win. Yi Qingluo sneered. His eyes were cold. It's our class. How we get first place is our business. Our class going out to play is also our business. She curled her lips and her eyes were filled with ambiguity. Student Shengguan is so concerned about the devil class, could it be? Student Shengguan to me. She paused and didn't continue. But the onlookers all understood what she meant. Their gazes towards Shengguan Liuli were filled with disdain and ridicule. Chapter 1055. Shengguan Liuli was so embarrassed that her face flushed red. She was embarrassed and angry at the same time. She stared at Yi Qingluo resentfully as she tore her throat and sharply berated, "Who has any strange feelings towards you? How can you be so shameless?" Saying that, Shengguan Liuli rushed towards the direction of the mansion. She couldn't stay here any longer. She was afraid that she couldn't control herself and would make a move on Yi Qingluo. Not only was she unable to defeat Yi Qingluo, she was also humiliated by her. Because of this, she would be reprimanded by the academy, and in more serious cases, she would be disqualified from the competition. But Shangguan Liuli's furious back view as she left. In everyone's eyes, it was because her thoughts were exposed and she fled in embarrassment. And I Rua Pan stood beside Yi Qing Luo and laughed. You're indeed Madame Qing Luo, just a few words and you made Shangguan Liuli speechless. Yi Qing Luo glanced at her. The interclass competition is around the corner. We can't casually fight with other students and cause unnecessary trouble. Of course, the most important thing was, she didn't intend to waste her energy because of Shangguan Liuli. Let's go. Yi Qing Luo said calmly as she took the lead to pass the crowd and walked towards the rear mountain. The crowd gave way to her as they were filled with admiration and envy towards this young lady who had such ability at such a young age. After leaving the crowd, she walked for about 10 meters. Yi Qing Luo's footsteps suddenly halted. Turning back, her gaze was fixed on a certain spot. But she saw that there were only a few ordinary crowd who were pointing at her with eyes filled with respect. Yi Qing Luo frowned as she retracted her gaze. Could it be an illusion? Why did she feel as though someone was watching her? In the dark corner, a man dressed in a blood-red robe with a jade belt was staring fixedly at the young lady's back view as she retracted her gaze. His icy cold eyes were filled with a chilly demonic coldness. That extraordinary handsome face was emotionless, dressed in a flirtatious red. But his imposing manner was as cold as ice. But this combination, it didn't seem out of place. On the contrary, he felt that this man was born to wear a red robe. Until Yi Qing Luo's back view completely disappeared before his eyes. The man then lowered his gaze and lowered his long eyelashes. A waist for 15 years. Suddenly there was a change and she became so powerful? What kind of secret was hidden within? He would definitely find out the reason for Yi Qing Luo's change. On the mountain behind West Lawn Square. This back mountain could also be considered as a training ground for the profound practitioners and students who had come to participate in the tournament, such as the Magical Beast Forest or the Heavenly Training Forest. There were quite a few profound practitioners at the periphery. Some were sightseeing, some were conversing, and some were taking a stroll. Seeing more than 60 young students dressed in the uniform of the Heavenly Academy, coming in majestically. Those cultivators stopped in their tracks and looked over, sending Yi Qing Luo and the rest into the deep end of the rear mountain. These students are really hard-working. Tomorrow is the competition, and today they still have to participate in the training. The Heavenly Academy is indeed the best academy. The perseverance of these students is admirable. These profound practitioners were speaking. Then he saw a group of students walking over. Their leader was a spoiled and willful young lady. She pulled one of them aside and asked, "Where did that bunch of trash go?" The profound practitioner who was being dragged furrowed his brows in displeasure. Just as he was about to break free from the female student's restraints, but he saw a student walking up from behind the female student. He raised his hand and a dagger was placed on his neck. The profound practitioner's eyes widened in shock as his trembling hand pointed towards the direction where Yi Qing Luo and the rest had left. What kind of student was this? Chapter 1056. By right, this afternoon was the last resting period before tomorrow's competition. She should let the students have a good rest. But Yi Qing Luo wasn't worried about this. Previously she asked Bei Ming Lulu to refine these pills, which were all from the 100 pills refinement, to strengthen the body and replenish energy. Of course this was purely to replenish energy and strength. This was also the pill which many of the students who were taking part in the competition often took. It wasn't considered as the competition's banned drug. Devil classes students didn't need to worry about being exhausted due to excessive training. As for the reason why Yi Qing Luo chose the rear mountain for the last training, it was because the last training was to train the class's students' teamwork. Although they had been working together for such a long period of time, they had also established a mercenary group to do missions together. The rapport between them as compared to other groups was indeed outstanding. But to Yi Qing Luo, these were far from enough. What she wanted was for these students to remember each and every companion's action and gaze. Of course this was easier said than done. In her past life, Yi Qing Luo had always been a lone ranger and had never nurtured any so-called partners. Towards teamwork, she had heard those old fogies talk about it before. The method which Yi Qing Luo used was a method which those old fogies had once mentioned. The most cliché but the most effective. He tied a red ribbon around the legs of more than 60 students. trapping the 60 over students tightly together. On the ribbon there was a bell hanging from every student. After the students were tied up, they moved their legs and that bell jingle jingle was extremely crisp and clear. Now, run one round around the 100-mile radius of the middle periphery. Yiqing Luo said calmly from behind. Run. The students' faces were filled with puzzlement. So simple? Following that, they saw a black-furred leopard beast appearing behind them. The students instantly wailed, I knew it. Wouldn't be so simple. Shiju, spare us. Shiju raised its head and gave a long howl. That huge leopard body slowly arched up and with a leap, it chased after them. What the? Shiju, you're so cute, can't you go easy on us? Chasing after us just because of a disagreement. Little cutie Shiju, as a magical beast, you can't be so rough. The students screamed and screamed, but they still ran forward quickly. This kind of training where he was chased by Shiju and had to run upside down all over the field. This was their daily homework. But this time, one of their legs was tied with a red ribbon. More than 60 people were tied together. When he lifted his leg, there was not the slightest bit of tacit understanding. One after another they staggered and fell to the ground with a crackling sound. Shiju pounced forward and pressed heavily on them. Although he had retracted his claws, he still had sharp teeth. However, this weight was enough to make the students cough uncontrollably. Yiqing Luo called Shiju back as she crossed her arms and looked at the students. Now do you understand the reason why I asked you to run one round? Understood. The students rubbed their sore spots and quickly adjusted their state of mind. They began to discuss how to run together. In less than an hour, these students were already able to walk and run together, and their speed was not slow either. Their gazes were all focused on the companions beside them. Then he quickly adjusted his rhythm. Chapter 1057. After another 4 hours, the students' speed became faster and faster. Just like the usual training when they were chased by Shiju. Just like one person running. 60 over students ran in unison. Their actions were the same and their speed was the same. There was no flaw at all. After going one round around the entire middle circle, the students stood in front of Yiqing Luo delightfully. On their faces, not only were they complacent, their faces were filled with smiles. As though they were waiting for Yiqing Luo's compliments. Standing beside Yiqing Luo looking at these students' colorful expressions, Xiao Jin couldn't help but laughed out. Accompanying the laughter was Yan Xiaoyi. The two of them spoke in unison and laughed out at the same time. This tacit understanding made the two of them stop laughing. Their 4 eyes subconsciously intersected. Just their gazes met for a moment and the two of them shifted away at the same time. The atmosphere suddenly turned awkward. Those students who had smiles on their faces, waiting for compliments, also sensed the strange atmosphere. All of them kept the smiles in their eyes as they obediently stood upright. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed slightly as she glanced sideways at the two people beside her, frowning slightly. The two of them. If this carried on, it would definitely affect the students' emotions. After all, the two of them were the main force of the students. And the role models in the students' hearts. Looked like she had to have a good talk with them tonight. Yiqing Luo took a step forward. All the students' gazes were concentrated on her. Yiqing Luo coughed lightly as a way to ease the atmosphere and divert the students' emotions as she said softly, "Very good, next your challenge is to level up." She paused slightly. Her eyes congealed towards the students as she smiled sweetly. From now on, continue to run one round around the middle circle. The prerequisite is that the bells on your feet are not allowed to make any sound. The students were dumbstruck. After several breaths of silence, the students started to wail as they fell onto the ground. Boss Qing Luo, isn't your request a little too harsh? How can it not make any sound? So many bells? And the surroundings are filled with leaves and bushes. Even if we control the bells to not make any sound, the sound will be swept away by these external objects. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as a sliver of ridicule flashed past her eyes, as she lightly swept past those students who were acting shamelessly on the ground. Feel that I'm forcing you? The students didn't answer, which could be considered as an admission. Yiqing Luo looked at a direction not too far away and saw that Mo Ying and Shiju had yet to return. He then said to Long Yunzhan, "Class monitor, let's try." Long Yunzhan understood and walked directly in front of Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo took out a red ribbon with 2 bells on it and tied her and Long Yunzhan's legs together. Then, with a burst of Shen Qi, He sent out a palm wind that landed not far away. A thick and sturdy tree fell to the ground with a bang. Yiqing Luo pointed to the place where the tree had fallen and said calmly, "Class monitor and I will go there and come back. Open your ears and listen carefully." After saying that, she glanced at Long Yunzhan. Long Yunzhan nodded slightly. The two of them looked at the tree at the same time. In an instant, the two of them turned into two afterimages and headed straight for the tree. The students only felt a gust of cold wind blow past their cheeks, followed by another gust of cold wind. The two of them had already returned to their original spot, as though they had not moved at all. The speed was so fast that it was merely a blink of an eye. The students' hearts were deeply shaken. "Is there any sound?" Yiqing Luo untied their ribbons as her brows rose as she asked. Chapter 1058. Since we can do it, you can do it too. Yiqing Luo's eyes rose slightly as a trace of craftiness and ridicule flashed past her eyes. The students suddenly felt immense pressure. She could do it, class monitor could do it too. That was a matter of course. But if it were them, how could they possibly do it? Just at this moment, they heard a commotion from the magical beasts, as well as the magical beasts' roars. Not too far away, 10 over extremely ferocious-looking low and middle-leveled magical beasts appeared. The students' expressions changed drastically as they had a thought in their minds. Indeed, they heard Yiqing Luo's voice, which was filled with laughter, melodious. "This time I'll let you off and not let Shiju chase after you. Change it to these low and middle-leveled magical beasts." Shiju's speed was extremely fast. Under the condition that the bell did not ring, 60 over people moved forward at the same time. It was indeed as difficult as ascending to heaven. Yiqing Luo specially asked Mo Yuing and Shiju to go to the middle to invite 10 over low-leveled magical beasts for help. These magical beasts' speed was slightly faster than ordinary wild beasts, just suitable for their training. Hence, the passing cultivators who were training saw such a shocking scene. A large group of students dressed in the Heavenly Academy's uniform screamed in a heart-wrenching manner as they ran forward in a horrendous manner. And behind them, 10 over low and middle-leveled magical beasts were chasing after them crazily. At this moment, a few masters dressed in the Academy's robes were followed by 4 to 5 high-profound Class 2 students. Walking right in front was a handsome man dressed in a blood-red robe with an expressionless face. The masters were surrounding that red-robed man with a flattering smile on their faces, as though they were talking about something. Suddenly, the high-profound class students who were following behind exclaimed, "Vice President, look! Isn't that devil class's trash?" Everyone's vision turned over. It wasn't because of this student's exclamation, but the rumbling sound coming from the front was too eye-catching. Not too far away, 60 over students were running wildly. The tinkling of the bell was extremely crisp, making their eardrums hurt. And behind those 60 over students, 10 over low and middle-leveled magical beasts were chasing after them. The headmaster's face darkened. "What's going on?" The high-profound Class 2 student pursed his lips and chuckled. "Devil class's trash is really worrisome. So many people were actually scared off by a few low-leveled magical beasts. What a disgrace to the Heavenly Academy." His tone was filled with contempt. Lu Shuiyu frowned as she looked at the devil class students who were being chased and screaming. A trace of astonishment flashed across his eyes. He could not sense any particularly strong profound chi from these devil class students. However, she was astonished by their speed. Of course, Lu Shuiyu didn't care about this speed. It's just a few low-level trash that can be easily killed, yet they were chased to this state. I really don't know where they get the confidence to participate in the inter-class competition. Lu Shuilan lightly snorted. She held onto her sister's hand. "Sister, look at how useless they are and you're still worried, wanting to guard against the devil class. I say you're just worrying for nothing." Lu Shuiyu did not reply. He had suffered so many losses in Yiqing Luo's hands. She really didn't believe that young lady would fight a battle that she had no confidence in. Yiqing Luo would be so confident in the interclass competition. It must be because she had a sure-win method. But when she saw the low-leveled magical beasts chasing the screaming devil class students, Chapter 1059. This group of students, a master's face darkened as he carefully glanced at the man in red beside him. Seeing that he was still emotionless, the master was perturbed. The group of students howled and screamed as they ran past them, kicking up a cloud of dust and broken leaves. Only then did these teachers react and quickly help the man in red to block the sand and leaves. Following that, a wave of middle and low-level magical beasts came chasing after them in an overbearing manner. Students of the devil class. Tomorrow is the competition. What are you all still doing here? The master could not take it anymore and reprimanded. He immediately went forward and prepared to deal with those low and middle-level magical beasts. Although he looked down on this useless class and this group of useless students. But after all, the devil class was a class of the Heavenly Academy. Wearing the uniform of the Heavenly Academy, they represented the Heavenly Academy when they were outside. No matter what, they could not let this group of useless people embarrass the Heavenly Academy. However, before this teacher could take a step forward, a hand was placed on his shoulder, stopping him from moving. The master stopped in his tracks and turned his head. He saw the shoulder, the blood-colored wide-sleeve robe, which made one's heart feel inexplicably scared. The master's heart tightened as he stood straight. Master Zhu? The man in red squinted his cold eyes. Let the students settle their own matters, there's no need for you all to do it. That master was stunned and immediately looked down. Master Zhu is right. The few masters looked at each other, not understanding. This Zhu Wuxian who looked cold and emotionless, as if he was not the least bit interested in anything. He actually took the initiative to stop them and help the devil class? The masters were perturbed, secretly speculating about Zhu Wuxian's actions, but they could not figure it out. But the high profound class 2 students at the side, when they saw Zhu Wuxian stopping the masters and helping the devil class, their eyes revealed a look of delight. Lu Shuilan whispered into Lu Shuiyu's ear, Sister, does Master Zhu hate the devil class too? Lu Shuiyu glanced at her, warning her to shut up. Lu Shuilan pursed her lips. After last time, when she almost took over the position of vice president from Lu Shuiyu's hands, and after Lu Shuiyu snatched the position back, she didn't dare to have any crooked thoughts towards Lu Shuiyu. Seeing Lu Shuiyu's warning, she did not dare to speak again. She continued to discuss this matter with the other 3 female students behind her in a low voice. Lu Shuiyu looked coldly at the devil class who was being chased by the magical beasts. He glanced at Zhu Wuxian from the corner of his eyes, only to see the expressionless red-shirt man staring fixedly at the direction where the devil class had disappeared. His face was expressionless and his eyes were emotionless. However, Lu Shuiyu still felt that something was wrong. Why would Zhu Wuxian stop teacher from helping the devil class deal with those magical beasts? Didn't he hate trouble the most and never bother with things that had nothing to do with him? Could it be that it was really as Lu Shuilan said? Zhu Wuxin hated the devil class? The students of the headmaster had different feelings. Zhu Wuxin didn't pay any attention and he didn't want to pay any attention. His gaze was fixed on the youths who were running in the distance. There was a faint ripple in his heart. These were her classmates. Was she using this kind of method to train these students? He could see that although these students were fleeing in a sorry state, their mouths were wailing like ghosts and howling like wolves. But in every student's eyes, there was a resolute and fearless glow. How could a student with this kind of glow be trash? It was her. Was she changing these students? This thought did not make Zhu Wuxian feel happy at all. On the contrary, his brows slightly furrowed. Chapter 1060. After a long period of energy exhaustion, these students gradually lost their stamina. But the thought of their companions beside them, thinking of the bells on their legs, thinking of the magical beasts behind them. Still, they mustered up their strong willpower and continued to charge forward. They tried their best to coordinate with their companions, not letting their bells make any sound. What they wanted was absolute tacit cooperation. What they wanted was to be fearless, persevering all the way to complete the target which Yiqing Luo had set. Because they were devil classes students. This kind of training continued all the way till 7 o'clock, which was around 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening. Devil classes students then stopped in front of Yiqing Luo with their heads full of sweat. They had completed Yiqing Luo's mission. Under the pursuit of the mid and low-leveled magical beasts, 60 over people ran together but the bells didn't make any sound. Looking at these youngsters who were obviously about to collapse onto the ground but still stood up stubbornly, Yiqing Luo's eyes were filled with a faint smile. Her pink lips curled slightly. You've done very well, I'm proud of you. Ecstatic expressions immediately appeared on the faces of those young people. As though a day's hard work was worth it. Some youngsters even cried tears of joy. Yi Qingluo's forehead was filled with black lines as her lips twitched as she looked at Long Yunzhan. Isn't this a little too exaggerated? Getting a word of praise and recognition from her was like getting the whole world? This tears of joy, wasn't it a little too exaggerated? Long Yunzhan rarely curled his lips as his azure blue eyes were gentle. It's not exaggerated. Not knowing when it started. Yi Qingluo's existence was already the core of devil class. Her every word, every action, was able to stir up the emotions of all the students in the class. Her recognition. To the students, it was the recognition towards them. Yi Qingluo and the others were drenched in sweat as they prepared to leave the rear mountain. The sky was already dark and the number of people in the rear mountain was getting lesser and lesser. They had just reached the middle of the mountain when they saw 5 to 6 people coming forward. The person who was walking right in front was Tao Tao. Qingluo, I finally found you. Tao Zi's expression was flustered as she swiftly rushed forward. Qingluo, it's bad, your brother? Your brother has been kidnapped. The joy on everyone's faces instantly dispersed. What did you say? What happened to Xiaoyu? Yi Qingluo gripped the Peach's wrist, her expression sunk. Peach was panting heavily with a thin layer of sweat on her forehead. It was obvious that she had been looking for her for a long time. She sped up and said, I received a secret report from the 3,000 peach blossoms. Someone hired an assassin from the Hall of Assassins to kidnap Yi Fengyu. When I heard this news, I immediately went to Low Profound Class 2 to look for him, but after asking all the students, they said that after Fengyu returned to his dormitory, there was no trace of him. Yi Qingluo's heart tightened as her eyes turned severe. Who is it? I've already asked the members of Peach Blossom 3000 to search for Fengyu's whereabouts. We should be able to get the news when we return to the dormitory, Peach replied immediately. Yi Qingluo nodded and called Shiju over as she flipped over and leapt onto Shiju's back. Immediately he grabbed Peach with one hand and pulled her onto Shiju's back. I'm going back to the dormitory first, Yi Qingluo said. Shiju turned into a bolt of lightning, swiftly vanishing before everyone's eyes. Long Yunzhan's eyes sunk slightly and without saying a single word, he speedily chased after Yi Qingluo's direction. Chapter 1061. Xiao Jin had just finished speaking when he suddenly reacted. His relationship with Yan Xiaoyi was no longer the same as before. She could do whatever she wanted with him. He loosened his grip stiffly. I am sorry. Yan Xiaoyi turned her face away and there was no trace of emotion on her pretty face. The atmosphere was awkward. Xiao Jin took a few quick steps forward. You guys go back to the old mansion together. I'll go check on the class monitor first. With that, he tapped the ground with the tip of his toes and leaped into the trees, disappearing from sight. Shiju was extremely fast. In just a short moment he had already arrived at the old dormitory. At this moment the students were bustling with activity. Suddenly a gust of cold wind blew past, and a huge leopard with pitch-black fur stopped at the entrance of the dormitory. This caused countless students to exclaim in surprise. Yi Qingluo's expression was cold as she flipped over and jumped down from the back of the beast. As soon as the peach landed on the ground, a student came forward and whispered something in her ear. Peach's face darkened. Yi Qingluo's heart suddenly sank. What's the matter? 3,000 peach blossom spies can't find where Fengyu was kidnapped. Peach frowned and said in a low voice, I have people in the Hall of Assassins, but I still can't find out who the bidder is. I don't know where the killer who took the order has taken the hostage. It was the first time Peach had encountered such a situation. She could confidently say that she had eyes all over the country. As long as she wanted to know something, she could easily find it out. But this time there was an accident. In Yi Qingluo's mind, 4 words suddenly flashed past: black, darkness, force, power. Could it be someone from the dark forces had kidnapped Yi Fengyu? At this critical juncture the day before the match, was he trying to use Yi Fengyu to make her lose tomorrow's match? This was Shangguan Lioli? Someone who was involved with the underworld forces and wanted to win tomorrow's match. Only Shangguan Lioli. Yi Qingluo's eyes narrowed slightly as her eyes were covered with frost. She quickly walked toward Shangguan Lioli's room. As soon as he entered the dormitory, he heard a commotion in front of him. The few masters were in a sorry state and fell to the ground in unison. There were also 2 elders who were desperately trying to stop something. Yi Qingluo's thoughts were all on searching for Shangguan Lioli, questioning her brother's whereabouts. He was not in the mood to pay attention to this farce. However, a loud and furious voice could be heard, Mother asterisk cur. How am I supposed to calm down when my disciple is missing? It's not like the person you're missing is your disciple. It's easy for all of you to talk. Get lost for this, daddy. This voice made Yiqing Luo's footsteps halted. Sure enough, he saw a crazy old man dragging a terrified and crying female student toward the gate of the old dormitory. Mentor Guiyu. Yiqing Luo stepped forward. This person was none other than Old Man Guiyu. As the teacher of the devil class, Old Man Guiyu would naturally tag along if the devil class were to participate in the inter-class competition. The moment he saw Yiqing Luo, Old Man Guiyu's furious expression eased up a little. He threw the female student in his hand towards Yiqing Luo. Catch. Ask this daddy clearly if this daddy's disciple's disappearance was caused by her. She dares to touch my disciple, your father will definitely pull out her tendons. I don't know anything. It's not me. Shengguan Lioli was so scared that her face was filled with tears. She shook her head in horror and struggled to break free from Yiqing Luo's restraint. Chapter 1062. I don't know. Shengguan Lioli's face flushed red. The pain of deoxygenation made her fingers struggle to pry Yiqing Luo's hand away. But how could her strength go against the raging Yiqing Luo? Her struggle instead made Yiqing Luo's fingers tighten even more. I ask you one more time, where is Xiao Yu? Yiqing Luo said word by word. Her voice was deep and cold, as though it was squeezed out from between her teeth. I really don't know. I have been in the mansion. Shengguan Lioli's voice was getting weaker and weaker. Her entire face had turned red. The elder by the side suppressed his anger. Student Yi put student Shengguan down. How could she be so rude in front of them? Did Yiqing Luo put them in her eyes? The anger from being humiliated by Old Man Guiyu earlier was vented on Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo seemed as though she couldn't hear them. Her eyes only saw Shengguan Lioli. You don't know? Then bring your ignorance to talk to the king of hell. After saying that, her 5 fingers suddenly increased the strength. Shengguan Lioli felt a sharp pain in her throat. The suffocating feeling made her roll her eyes. Student Yiqing Luo. The elder was furious. Old Man Guiyu had embarrassed them in public, and this Shueshing didn't even obey the discipline. Not only the people from the Heavenly Academy were around. There were other forces and representatives from other academies. If he was treated so rudely by a student, he would definitely be ridiculed by the other academies. The 2 elders looked at each other, their figures swayed, one on the left and one on the right, grabbing towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed, a cold glint flowed in her eyes. However, with a slight glance, the 2 elders stopped their movements. My disciple hasn't been found and you dare to touch my disciple's sister. Old Man Guiyu didn't give them any face, directly raised both his palms and sent the 2 elders flying. He strode to Yiqing Luo, pointed at Shengguan Lioli and shouted, I tell you, hand over my disciple. Even if you want to die, I will not grant you your wish. I will pull out your tendons, peel off your skin and remove your bones. Shengguan Lioli was in a daze from the choking, but she understood Old Man Guiyu's words. She widened her eyes and shook her head weakly. I really don't know, I didn't. Even if I had the ability to kidnap Yi Fengyu, I wouldn't have been able to do so under the watchful eyes of so many teachers and elders. The elder who was sent flying by the side clutched his chest and stood up. After being beaten up by Old Man Guiyu, their attitude had obviously eased up. That's right, the dormitory is heavily guarded. How could student Yi Fengyu's disappearance be related to student Shengguan? Another elder nodded in agreement. Student Yi Fengyu is probably just playing around outside the market. He'll be back later. Old Man Guiyu was still in a fit of anger, listening to their nonchalant conversation. He didn't feel comforted at all. On the contrary, he was burning with rage. He raised his hands and slapped each of them. He was so angry that he stomped his feet. I'm not blaming you. So many of you can't even protect my disciple. Is the Heavenly Academy feeding you bunch of trash for sh*t? Old Man Guiyu had always done whatever he wanted. He never thought about who his actions would offend or make a joke out of himself. His protective heart only wanted to protect the people he wanted to protect. The rest didn't matter. Yiqing Luo was the same. Yi Fengyu was missing. Chapter 1063. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes as her pink lips curled into an eerie arc. Her slender fingers slowly moved from Shangguan Liuli's neck to her lower jaw. She tightened her grip and increased her strength. Shangguan Liuli's head was filled with cold sweat as she could clearly hear the sound of her lower jaw bones breaking. I only asked you where Xiao Yu is. I never said that he was kidnapped. You. How did you know that Xiao Yu was kidnapped? As though it came from the azura from hell, eerie and crisp. It entered her ears and entered her heart. It made Shangguan Liuli's heart thump non-stop. She was trembling in pain as she endured the pain in her mouth and tried her best to explain. I guessed. Long Yunzhan and Xiao Jin, who were following closely behind, immediately walked up when they saw this scene. Peach explained what had happened in a low voice. Long Yunzhan frowned slightly as his icy cold gaze fell onto Shangguan Liuli. If Yi Fengyu's disappearance had nothing to do with Shangguan Liuli. He didn't believe it. Xiao Jin didn't believe it either. Only. Apparently, Shangguan Liuli had made up her mind not to reveal a single word. Perhaps she was sure that Yiqing Luo wouldn't dare to kill her, hence she was so unbridled. Yiqing Luo's eyes turned colder as she recalled that Yi Fengyu was kidnapped by the dark forces. Her heart was in a mess. In the hands of the dark forces. Her brother? Just at this moment, a few mercenaries dressed in mercenary group uniforms walked in from outside the mansion. Peach saw them and immediately went up to them. Any news of Fengyu? Those mercenaries shook their heads as their expressions were extremely ugly as they leaned towards Peach's ear and whispered a few words. Yiqing Luo's sharp ears heard the words devil class. Her expression congealed. What did you say? Peach's expression was steely green as she couldn't believe what she had heard. But now there was no time to be shocked or flustered. She hurriedly repeated what that mercenary had said. Devil class was attacked at the rear mountain. The students were all seriously injured. When she said that, it shocked the surrounding crowd as all of their expressions changed. Those two elders and the few masters were so shocked that their faces turned pale. Students were seriously injured? If this matter were to spread out, how much damage would it cause to the academy's reputation? That group of students from Devil class were really worrisome. Yiqing Luo's fingers, which were locked onto Shangguan Liuli's, slowly loosened. She looked at Peach expressionlessly, her eyes as calm as still water. He clearly didn't have any emotions. However, it made one feel as if they were 10,000 miles of icebergs, and the frost had turned into ice. It made one feel inexplicably fearful. Shangguan Liuli broke free from Yiqing Luo's restraints as her eyes overflowed with a sliver of black qi. The corners of her mouth twitched, revealing a sinister smile. This time, she wanted Yiqing Luo to not be able to make a comeback. Shiju. The clear voice was filled with killing intent. That huge leopard quickly ran over. Yiqing Luo flipped over and leapt onto Shiju's back, as her pair of hazy eyes looked toward Shangguan Liuli, who was hiding in the crowd, laughing sinisterly. Yiqing Luo didn't conceal her murderous intent. Her charming eyes were like a hurricane, as if it wanted to devour everything. She opened her mouth, word by word, coming out from the slits of her teeth. Shangguan Liuli, you've successfully touched my reverse scale. I will make you regret coming to this world. Saying that, the leopard had already sped up, dashing into the horizon towards the rear mountain. Right from the start. The Dark Force's motive was the Devil class's students. More accurately, it was Shangguan Liuli's motive. No matter if the Devil class's students were a threat to her or not, she would first cripple these students. Chapter 1064. Using the news of Yi Fengyu's disappearance to lure her away. Taking the chance to strike Devil class's students at the rear mountain. Although the current Devil class was already very strong. But against the ruthless and merciless Dark Forces or experienced killers, there was still a long way to go. If Devil class fell into those people's hands, it would only lead to death. The leopard beast's speed was extremely fast, and in a blink of an eye, it had already reached the rear mountain. A thick stench of blood filled the air. Shiju followed the stench of blood and sprinted over. It saw Devil class's students lying on the ground halfway up the mountain. Under the cold moonlight, the ground at the rear mountain was cracked and the trees had collapsed. It had long been leveled to the ground. The ground was filled with blood and the dried leaves had coagulated. Yiqing Luo's eyes were glaring red. Boss Qing Luo? Some students saw Yiqing Luo's figure and struggled to get up from the ground, weakly calling out her name. What's going on? Yiqing Luo's voice was cold and quiet. But for no reason it gave off a terrifying aura. This was the place she had rushed back to when she found out that Yi Fengyu had gone missing. In other words, after she found out that Yi Fengyu had been kidnapped, she immediately rushed back. The Dark Forces people then took action on Devil Class's students. In other words, the Dark Forces people most probably had their eyes on them right from the start. She actually didn't notice. Sorry. I didn't protect everyone well. A weak voice was heard from the side. Yiqing Luo frowned as she flew towards the direction of the voice. Squatting down, Yiqing Luo helped her up. That petite young lady from head to toe was not in a good state. She didn't even have the energy to stand. Her exquisite face was filled with scars. Xiao Yi. Yiqing Luo's throat choked. Her palm trembled as she hugged the young lady in her arms tightly. Yan Xiaoyi must have suffered such a serious injury because she was protecting everyone. Yiqing Luo looked at the side, at Mo Ying, who had long fainted as she was helped up by the other students. A burst of anger surged from the bottom of her heart. Sister. Kitty Li called out to Yiqing Luo crisply. The face which was smeared with blood, when he saw Yiqing Luo, his crystal bright gem-like eyes revealed a luster. Yiqing Luo carefully put Yan Xiaoyi down and immediately walked towards Kitty Li. He noticed that Kitty Li's wounds weren't light either. Especially her hands, the joints had been severely fractured. It was obvious that the joints of his fingers had been broken by someone. The people from the Dark Forces had actually treated them like this. These children were only 15 or 16 years old. The underground forces were actually so ruthless. Long Yunzhan and Xiao Jin, who had rushed over, saw the youths lying on the mountainside. His eyes were filled with a storm. If they hadn't left with Yiqing Luo, these students wouldn't have met with such a situation. Xiao Yi. Xiao Jin's pupils constricted as he looked at Yan Xiao Yi, who was covered in scars, and he swiftly rushed to her side and pulled her into his embrace. His pitch-black eyes were filled with worry and fear. The hand that was holding Yan Xiao Yi was trembling non-stop. Xiao Yi. The scene in the Ling King's tomb appeared in his mind again. Xiao Jin seemed to see the scene of Yan Xiaoyi's life hanging in the balance. His heart felt a dull pain. His arms subconsciously tightened around her delicate body. Yan Xiaoyi's blood-stained eyelashes fanned slightly. She shut her eyes as she quietly leaned into Xiao Jin's embrace. Chapter 1065. Yiqing Luo stood there expressionlessly. Her gaze swept across the 60 over youngsters on the ground. None of them were in good condition. Their green and white uniforms were dyed red by the fresh blood. Qing Luo? Long Yunzhan stood by her side, calling out her name softly. Seeing Devil Class's students being treated in such a manner, he who had always been emotionless, was filled with rage. But when he saw the expressionless Yiqing Luo, he worriedly creased his brows. Qing Luo, calm down, this is their conspiracy. Yiqing Luo's gaze didn't move, her voice was as calm as water. I'm very calm. But that voice seeped out a thick murderous intent. Yes, she was calmer than anyone else. She wouldn't be rash to go around looking for the Dark Forces, to seek revenge for the students. She was the main force in the students' hearts. If her heart was in a mess, the students' hearts would also be in a mess. The Dark Forces only wanted to stop Devil Class from taking part in the interclass competition. So that Shangguan Liuli could win? No. The Dark Forces were definitely not that kind-hearted. Just for a Shangguan Liuli they would go to war, not hesitating to expose their own identities? Probably. The Dark Forces' motive was because of her and Shangguan Liuli's blood oath. To destroy her profound jade heart. The Dark Forces wanted to snatch her profound jade heart from her once again. Presumably, her profound jade heart would be of great use to the King of Darkness. Previously, when Guardian Eagle and the director conversed on the second floor of the library pavilion, they had mentioned about her. The Dark Forces wanted her. This is... Devil Class's students, what's going on? 10 overmasters behind him raised their torches and rushed to the rear mountain. On seeing the students' serious injuries, they were stunned on the spot. Following them, there were quite a number of students who were watching the commotion. In just a moment, the matter of Devil Class being attacked at the rear mountain had spread throughout the entire West Lake Square. This matter naturally alarmed the 4 masters from the main courtyard. It attracted a huge amount of attention. After returning to the dormitory, the Heavenly Academy's director immediately arranged for doctors to bandage the students' wounds. This time Devil Class was attacked, it's our Heavenly Academy's fault for not protecting the students properly. The Heavenly Academy will definitely give you an explanation. The director's face was dignified. The Devil class students being attacked is just an opportunity. The other party's target is definitely the Heavenly Academy. I hope that all of the students will pay attention to their own safety. Do not leave the academy carelessly and act alone to avoid being ambushed. In other words, he was trying to push the responsibility of the attack on the Devil class onto the Devil class. After the Devil class reached the dormitory, they grouped up and headed to the back mountain. Furthermore, he had made a fool of himself in the back mountain, being chased by a low-level magical beast. All the students knew about this. He immediately felt that the dean's words made sense. If he wasn't a student of the Devil class, he wouldn't have insisted on running to the back of the mountain, and even caused such a huge ruckus there. How could he be targeted by the Heavenly Academy? Not only caused other academies and representatives of other forces to point fingers at the Heavenly Academy. Even they, the students, were being discussed incessantly by others. No one pitied the Devil class, everyone was blaming the Devil class. This was the effect that the dean wanted. Of course, it was impossible to shirk responsibility completely. You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.